Everybody, welcome. Thank you for being here today. I am teaching Boosting the Acupuncturist Toolkit tips and tricks for treating pregnancy with traditional Chinese medicine. Um, I'm super excited to share with you guys, and thank you for those who get to watch the recording later on. Um, anyway, I'm just gonna jump right in. Here we go. So just a little bit about me. I'm not sure if I've met you guys in person yet or not, but I started in the field quite a long time ago in the 1990s. I worked for an acupuncturist in Pennsylvania, actually, where I had lived many years. And then I went back to California after I graduated my bachelor's from Philadelphia. And then I wound up going to PCOM for several years, and I did all of their programs. I did the massage tech, the massage therapist, the HHP, the OBT, was Oriental Body Therapist. And I got my master's, and then I got my doctorate even later on. I started doulaing. Doula is where you take care of the families giving birth. And then when I graduated PCOM, I started my company Push San Diego, where I had for many years in San Diego, integrative women's health clinic. So, yeah, I graduated and I started my practice. I work at three different institutions. I work at Yosan University in California, and they have a women's health doctorate program, which is really freaking cool. Um, and I teach in at Eastern School in New Jersey online. I teach their women's health, and I teach OM and currently teaching herbs. I got my doctorate in 2020. And what else? I moved to Pennsylvania recently. So I am here caring for my mother. She has been ill and it has been a challenge. So yeah, moved to California in 1998 and I moved back and back to Pennsylvania last year. So, um, but I got pregnant in 2000 for the first time and I carried to term. But sadly, I had the worst thing happen that could happen is I lost my baby at term. I had a stillborn and it rocked me to my core. It was, definitely the worst thing that ever happened to me. And Chinese medicine saved me. And I got so much acupuncture and herbal support that I really decided to, go to school and learn that. And then once I was in school, kind of dedicating my life to supporting pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. So, yeah, Mia Bell Davies is my daughter. She was born March 23rd. I always have a challenge uh, this time of year, just in memory. It's always sad. And, unfortunately, a lot of pregnancies end in loss, and statistically, 1 in 4 pregnancies end in loss. So, if you're going to work with this population, it's sadly something you are going to see. And so, knowing how to support these families going through this is really, really powerful. It brings my life great meaning and joy to be able to do this support, so it's like the worst thing that ever happened to me becomes the best thing, which is my career and my love for Chinese medicine. So I'm really passionate about what I do and helping others and making a difference in the world. I did go on to have another baby a year later. So TCM says, the one way for a woman to exhaust her jing is to have too many babies too close together. And for a man, it's too much sex, even if it could be masturbation. So it's really true because I got pregnant 3 months after having a full term loss. And so all my acupuncturists said, don't get pregnant for at least 1 year. The people I was working with. But then the medical field said, oh, yeah, you can get pregnant after 3 months. So that's what I did. Got pregnant my first try, my first month. I got good jing. See my ears. And I had my daughter Lauren a year later, and she saved my life. And um, yeah, anyways, she's the best thing ever. And now she's all grown up. She's 22, about to be 23. Amazing. Time flies. So just more on my background, I studied with DONA, it stands for Doulas of North America, and I wanted to study doula that kind of mirrored Chinese medicine, and so I like that they focus on the natural aspects and mirroring nature, supporting families naturally. Childbirth is a normal, natural thing. People have been doing it for thousands of years. Then I studied hypnobirthing, became a childbirth educator, teaching hypnobirthing, and that was also very much in alignment with natural and TCM. So I feel like I have a cape on and I become super Deb as an acupuncturist and a doula because we can do so many things that a regular doula can't, even just doing acupressure, not being licensed with needles. I most of the time don't even use needles in birth situations. I mostly use my hands, and people prefer that and love that. And that's been really good. So, this is why I do what I do is like this is Lauren, this is my daughter. And this was when she was a baby, and then she was like 12. We tried to recreate in the same location in San Diego, Balboa Park. And it was just kind of funny. Anyways, these are some of my clients and patients and interns and families I've had the honor to work with. And I feel like our patients become our teachers and what really teaches us the most. So it's really quite special to work with families around this time. These are some of my mentors. I don't know if you guys know Bertram Furman, this guy here. He taught at Pecan many years, and he was teaching think so, business class, the one business class that you get. Anyway, he retired recently, and I had took over his practice in Hillcrest many years ago when I was forming Push, and just a phenomenal human being. He studied with someone named Dr. Yi Tan Ni, women's health, and he passed all that information to me. I also got to study with Robin Tabiri, which is Alex Tabiri's ex-wife. When I was going to school, I interned with her. She was phenomenal. I actually got to befriend Giovanni Macchioccia when he was alive, um, and saw him in the doctoral program and grand rounds with him and even salsa dancing with him, like amazing man. And I teach OBGYN, the women's health, so the Giovanni book is pretty much my Bible. Claudia Sikovitz, somebody based out of New York. I studied with labor and delivery stuff. Heather Bruce is in New Zealand. Deborah Betts is also in New Zealand. She has a book, Acupressure for Labor and Birth, also phenomenal. Um, and then Kathy Goldman Dieterman on the top right. I worked for her clinic years ago when I lived in Pennsylvania when I was in college. And it was so great to work for her because she's kind of what like really inspired me into Chinese medicine. And I was raised, you go to the doctor when you get sick and you just go to the doctor. And my doctor was fat and he smelled like cigarettes. And that was always odd to me. And we would wait hours and hours and hours in the waiting room and then in the patient waiting room. And he would come in and he would give us a prescription and be in and out within 5 minutes. And I just was always like, is this? So when I learned about Kathy and acupuncture in my 20s, I wanted to work for her. I applied for a job and she said, "Have you ever had acupuncture?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Well, I need to treat you because you need to know what I do and you need to be able to explain it." And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm afraid." And she's like, "And you need to be able to explain to people that they need to not be afraid." So, anyways, she's wonderful. Jill Blakeway is based out of New York, Yanova Center. I've learned a lot from her. And again, the people that I have had the honor to treat throughout their pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and then the families I actually birth with it's just amazing. So I know we just have a little class today. So if you guys want to open your cameras, you're welcome to, and say hello. I like to see who's in the room, where you're at in the program, if you're a student, if you graduated. And then if you have any challenges or questions, you can pop them in the chat. You can always email me later on. If you're watching the recording, I would love to support you. And I feel really that it's very important to support the future generations of acupuncturists. So feel free to reach out to me at any point, whether you're attending this class live or the recorded class. You can find me on all the social media, and I'm really happy to help people build their confidence working with that. Does anybody want to introduce themselves that's here?
Sure. My name is Portia. I am from New Jersey.
Oh,
I am actually due to graduate from PCOM this April, in 2 weeks.
woohoo. All right.
I know, right? Finally.
Yes, that's great. Congrats.
Um, Thank you. Challenges or questions? I guess I've always been interested in women's health. So I have a lot of questions. But I'll
Okay.
wait for the end.
Okay.
Just to hear what,
Perfect.
I've been following you for a while. I had a clinic shift with Dr. Greg Lane. He
Okay.
recommended me to the push program. But like many students, I'm like, finances has taken over my
Oh,
life now, and I'm not working currently. So hopefully once I uh, graduate and do all the things that I have to do,
oh,
look forward to working with you, hopefully in the push program if you still have that available.
yeah.
I'm also a doula, a trained doula. I'm not
Hey.
certified, but I am trained through DONA. And
Okay.
that was back in 2000 and I want to say 2020. Yeah, 2020 and then the world shut down. So I wasn't taking on many, I guess, clients at the time. And then I started the program also in 2020. So then school took over. So I want to do that more. I'm looking into volunteering for Volunteer San Diego
Okay.
at UCSD. Um, and yeah, I'm
So
happy.
you're from Jersey, but you live in San Diego.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Okay, right on. I'm from California and I'm in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
East Coast. Woohoo!
Yep, I know.
Whatever. Anyways, well, thank you. I'm so happy that you're here and, feel free to ask questions, whether you jump on or throw it in the chat at any point too. Um, Thank you for introducing yourself. And then, I think it's interesting that you said, Portia, that you're DONA trained but not certified. And I am also DONA trained but not certified because they had a clause in their paperwork that said if you hold a medical license and get your DONA doula, you will not use your medical license while serving as a DONA doula. And I thought, what the heck? Everybody hires me because I'm an acupuncturist. Like, so it just didn't make sense. So I didn't certify. And so I also am just DONA trained. And I feel really passionate about teaching acupuncturists to become doulas and to feel confident using our skills, a combination of the birth skills and acupuncture skills. So I commend you to be a doula. It's really hard work. I've attended about 250 births and everything from home birth to lots of hospital births, inductions, C-sections, surrogates, all the things, LGBTQ population. So it's really wonderful. Um, yeah, I'm so happy you're here. Thanks for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Let's see. Christine, did you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Christine. Hi, Portia. Deb Davies. I graduated from PCOM last August, and I'm currently studying for my board exams. I passed my foundations in acupuncture. I'm going to take my biomed in a couple weeks. I'm mostly interested in this because Dr. Davies, I've heard so much about you, and I didn't get a chance to work with you while I was in school, so I thought this was a good opportunity
Yeah.
to follow your teachings.
Oh,
I just
neat.
had my baby 6 weeks, my second daughter, 6 weeks
Oh,
ago. So
congrats.
thank you so much. She's doing really well. When I was pregnant, we had some issues with fetal growth restriction and a little bit of other things. So I was like, wait, I need to learn more about how I can support not only myself, but everybody around me who's surprisingly just like pregnant everywhere.
Yes.
So
Oh,
yeah,
that's
that's why I'm
good.
here.
And you said you're in Virginia? Is
I
that right?
am. I'm
Okay.
from Virginia. I moved to San Diego for school, and as soon as we graduated, because we have the two babies now, we wanted to be back closer to family. So I'm
Okay.
back in Virginia now.
Okay. Awesome. Well, that's great. We're like all across the coast here. The
Exactly.
coast. Okay, perfect. Well, I'm just gonna jump right in. And like I said, please, ask questions, jump in the chat anytime you want. I am going to share the recording with everyone. So, wonderful. Thanks again for being here. So these are our topics today, and we're going to talk about statistics in the birth world, specifically in the United States. We'll talk about reviewing obstetric materials and terminology just to help you feel familiar and comfortable with the words that the women will be saying when they tell you what their doctor told them. Talking about becoming a perinatal expert, understanding the difference between doula, midwife, and OBGYN, which is really important, as well as the pros and cons of the different birthing facilities. Like here in the US, you're pretty much giving birth at the hospital for most people, home birth, and then birth centers as well. And there could be the occasional along the side of the road on the way to one of those places. But if that happens, it's usually a very healthy, quick, precipitous labor. Anyway, we'll get into that more. Um, We'll talk about following your patients through their reproductive years and what that looks like. And then we'll talk about specific treatments for pregnancy-related diseases and disorders. So we have a lot of fun stuff, and I'll probably go an hour and a half is my norm, and then give us a break for 20 minutes or so, and then I'll just go again at the end. So
I have
this
a
is
question. Do you have this on a PowerPoint by chance or like a PDF or no? These
I didn't share that, but I could stop this and share it with you guys if that would be helpful.
I can
Or I
wait.
will share it at the end. How's that? I will definitely share the PowerPoint and the video. Okay?
Yep, sounds
Okay, perfect. All right, so starting off, our statistics is induction of labor. So when I was running Push in San Diego, I felt like at least half of my families birthing in the hospital were being induced. And this was going on for years. And like if someone's due around Christmas, I would have 13 to 15 patients scheduled for an induction on December 21st because nobody ever tells you an induction could take 4 or 5 days too. So they kind of want to get everybody in before the holiday. Anyways, this was the best stat I could find where it's saying, it jumped from 25% to about 32%. So, and then I just think it's interesting if we ask around, especially the perinatal acupuncturist, what do you think? I think that number is a much higher. And then there was a study that came out a few years ago, and it talks about women giving birth at 39 plus one. So many hospitals routinely schedule inductions for 39 plus one. And that's a whole nother topic we'll talk about later, but there's just so many things. So the concerns with induction is that there's this cascade of interventions, and one thing leads to another, leads to another. If we look at normal physiology in birth, the baby is complete. The baby has developed to its full potential. Bing, stimulates the right hormones to mom's body, and the labor initiates and begins. I find in my experience, labors go much smoother when they're initiated physiologically from the baby. So it is difficult because this becomes something that's like managed for her. It's not a normal, natural thing. If you look at any mammal in nature giving birth, a horse, a dog, a pig, like they're usually alone and they need quiet and they need the ability to move as much as possible. So, unfortunately, things like birth trauma are happening all over the place. I listen to so many women, thousands of women, share their birth stories with me, and it's so sad how many cry and tell me horrible things over and over and over to this day. It's really, really a mess out there. So, there's a lot of problems that can lead to inductions. I thought this picture was funny because they're putting a doctor in the stirrups and be like, oh, you want to see how it feels to be on your back? Like, that's not natural either. Like, people in nature are going to be standing using gravity or lunging something, not on your back. Um, Anyways, I could just go on and on. So it really starts out um, challenging for people that have inductions. And I've just seen babies be literally ripped from women's bodies through inductions. And I see how hard it is on her to recover and her family and so on and so forth. I could just go on and on. So if we jump over to C-sections, now if somebody has a C-section, we never want to make them feel bad about that. C-sections can be life-saving surgeries, but C-sections are out of control. And the current rate of C-sections is about 32.1%. So 1 in 3 women are having major abdominal surgery to give birth. And so when I was born in the 1970s, the C-section rate was like 7 to 12%. Now, the World Health Organization says a country is normal and safe if they have 10 to 15%. So we are like 2 to 3 times higher than what we should be. And so that's concerning. A sec here. It's really concerning. And, the rates keep rising. And rates can vary from hospital to hospital, city to city, state to state. There's a company, cesareanrates.org, where you can look up the C-section rates of the hospitals near you, which is something I encourage you to do. If you're working in this industry with this demographic, it's really nice when my patients come in and they say, where are you planning on giving birth? And then I kind of help them know, how they run. At least I knew that in San Diego. It's so hard here. I'm starting over. I don't know the hospitals. My mom just fell yesterday. I was in the local hospital, so I'm like learning the system, but not even through birth right now. So, anyways, the C-section rates vary a lot all over, and there can be a lot of challenges after C-section. And I've worked with lots of rich ladies in my time, and they're like, just schedule my C-section, no problem, convenience. And it's really sad. This is a picture of the worst C-section scar I ever saw. It was a keloided C-section, and this woman was coming to me for infertility. So she tells me this is her second baby, and so I asked these questions in my intake: do vaginal or C-section birth? Oh, I had a C-section. Can I see your scar, please? You have to look at all their scars and touch and feel and see because they're cutting along the meridians, and this could happen. So I took one look at this scar, and I was like, oh, honey, this is why you're not getting pregnant. And so she went and told her doctor. And her doctor said, all right, let's do an IUI, intrauterine insemination. Her husband ejaculates into a cup. They take the sperm, they spin it, or I don't know, whatever they do. Then they put it in a tube. They put the tube up in her vagina, into her cervix, and shoot the sperm up in there in hopes to get her pregnant. So the doctor is doing the procedure and he gets the tube level with where her scar is, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, your acupuncturist was right. This is totally like stuck here." And he jams it through, and she got pregnant, and she had another baby. Amazing. So there's so many things that we can do as like little TCM detectives of finding out what the problem is, because sometimes it's not the pattern, the specific point or whatever. It's something like structural like this. So this is just something I've seen, and I've seen so many women have like sexual dysfunction where they can't even have sex, or it's painful with penetration at all, or they have urinary incontinence, or worse yet, fecal incontinence. So there's just so many challenges. So I want to try to protect them as much as possible from a C-section. When I'm serving as a doula, I feel like that's my job to help prevent a C-section because I've just seen it so much on the back end. It's so much harder on her, on the family, on everyone when she has a C-section. Much harder recovery. So my other concern statistically is the maternal mortality rate in the United States. So I started teaching this several years ago. This is a 2020, is it 2020 or yeah, 2020 statistic. So 23.8, so 24 women out of every 100,000 women giving birth in the United States are dying, dead, somewhere around the end of pregnancy, birth, or in the first 30 days postpartum. With all of our money, education, technology, what the heck is going on? And you look at comparative, level countries, industrialized nations, their numbers are so much lower. And so I moved to Philly recently, and so I thought last summer when I moved, let me look up the current maternal mortality rate. So the next year, the maternal mortality rate is 39 out of every 100,000. It is continuing to rise. So I'm like, let me look into the area where I live. Philadelphia has 1,500 out of 100,000 women dying. I'm disgusted, appalled, and just literally beside myself with this. It is so, so upsetting, and it's something women need to know about. Their families need to know about this. It is no longer safe to give birth in a hospital. And, I don't want to scare people. I want to empower people with options. And you can see this population, you can help people. So, like I was saying, the numbers are rising, and now it's 39. So it just keeps going up, keeps going up. And worse, if you are a woman of color, if you are black or brown, your baby and yourself are 3 to 4 times more likely to die. So it's so, so upsetting again. And so I love when acupuncturists of color are on this call and they see this because you need to share this with your communities. You know, it's so passionate. I'm so passionate about this because I believe in diversity, awareness, education. I don't care what color you are, like people are people. So it's just really sad. And as a doula, I've seen this myself. I never realized my white privilege until I was a doula. And I doulaed rich ladies mostly. And there was a couple of interrace mixed couples. Whenever there was, a dark-skinned person, they treated us differently, horribly. And I couldn't even believe it. So it's really, really scary. And there's so much that we can do to teach women to educate themselves, to ask the right questions, to appear like they know what they're talking about, to not just be a spiral. Um, I taught recently to a group of Israeli acupuncturists. And so I looked up what is Israel's maternal mortality rate. Their number is 3, down from 6. And so I had 40 students on the class. I said, can you guys tell me what's going on in Israel? What I need to know about? Like, why is your number 3 and ours is 39? And a couple people got on and they said, well, there's a acupuncture department in every hospital in Israel. And the acupuncturists rotate between the emergency department, labor and delivery, um, whatever, recovery from surgery, post-op, all, they just rotate wherever they're needed and they go and they support the people. So I feel like that gives us hope that we have a long way to go. There's a lot that we could do, and it's challenging. It's really challenging to fit our round peg in the square hole, or however you would say that sometimes. But um, yeah, anyways, it's a mess out there. It is a mess. I'm going to show you a quick 2-minute clip of a movie that I just think really profoundly educates people what the heck is going on, what they're up against. So I don't know if you know Ricky Lake. She was a talk show host in the 90s, and she created a documentary on birth several years ago. And so let me just show that and we'll go on.
Hospitals are businesses. They want those beds filled and emptied. They don't want women hanging around in the labor room.
Technology is technology. It's not stopping. So if you're going to have good stuff, you might as well use it to get the best outcome.
Maternity care in the United States is in crisis.
People don't have the information.
Medical decisions are being made for monetary and legal reasons, not because they're good for the mother and the baby.
This is Pitocin, which is the medication given through the IV that causes contractions.
Just check that she's on PIT. Just make sure that she's on PIT and just to keep upping the PIT. And if you're uncomfortable, we can always give you more.
Is this an improvement or are we making things worse?
How often do you get to see a fully natural birth?
Rarely.
Almost never.
Everywhere else in the world, you see midwives attending 70 or 80% of all the births, and the United States stands alone.
You want to talk big lobby, big dollars, they can kind of call a lot of shots. Accusations tonight that some hospitals are not being upfront with patients who are expecting a baby.
Cesarean is extremely doctor friendly. It's 20 minutes. And I'll be home for dinner.
Basically, what the medical profession has done is convince the vast majority of women that they don't know how to birth.
If I could do that, I could do anything. To me, that's the power of birthing. And that is what we are taking away from women.
It wasn't an illness. It wasn't something that needed to be numbed. It needed to be experienced.
It was the most adventurous day I've ever had in my life.
I don't even have like a diaper. I don't even have that's the
I have to get there. I cannot have another contraction this taxi cab.
Switch on a light switch and you go to the moon.
This is what I was after. This is what I wanted for my child.
Nothing compares to the privilege of giving life and the responsibility of that. Nothing.
So yeah, so I think that it's so important for us to recognize every pregnant woman has to give birth. And so they are kind of up against something. So I recommend you watch this movie, The Business of Being Born. I think it was free on YouTube at one point. I'm not exactly sure. And I encourage my patients to watch this and with their husband or partner. It's really important that they both know what they're up against and how they can support one another. Has anyone seen this before? Did you seen the movie? Yeah, it's a really good one to watch. Definitely interesting. And so this is why we are here, so that we're not afraid of treating pregnancy. And as I've been teaching around the world now, like with Zoom, it's so cool that we can support things. And so something I've noticed teaching all around the US and now the world is that everyone was kind of taught to be afraid of pregnant patients. Avoid this, avoid those points, don't do this, don't do that. We were not taught what to do. And there's so much that we can do to help them that I want to teach people that. And so in these classes and my mentorship and my conferences, all the things, like I'm just so geeked out about pregnancy, birth, and postpartum and helping us feel more confident. And I co-teach with Dr. Catherine Austin, so she's amazing. And sometimes I have her come in and do the herb part because she's the herb master. Okay, so this might be a new concept for some people, but this is one of the most important things that I think you should start doing immediately is working on your professional referral list. So this is going to benefit you. This is going to benefit your patients. I like to find people on the same level as me. I have 20 plus years experience. When I'm connecting with midwives, I'm connecting with the more seasoned midwives who have a little more experience, the placenta encapsulators, the doula, whatever. And then if you're newer, that's great. Connect with the new ones because they need people to cross refer to. And they're, realizing our scope of practice ends and another person's picks up. And that we don't have to be the end all be all and do everything. And we humbly have to admit where our scope ends. We can only do so much. So it's also a great opportunity to do networking. So whether you're in school or you just graduated, you could, if you have a patient, like I moved to Pennsylvania, I have all these new patients, and so they're like, "Oh, my midwife, oh, my doctor." So the lowest hanging fruit that you can get is, "Hey, do you care if I reach out to your doctor? Hey, do you care if I reach out to your midwife?" And, "Oh, hi, Mrs. Midwife. I'm Deb Davies. I'm the new acupuncturist in town. I specialize in perinatal. I'd love to connect with you. Do you want to have lunch? Can I do a lunch and learn for your midwives at your birth center, like that kind of thing. And you could give them a list of 5 topics: one around pregnancy, one around birth, one around postpartum, one around anxiety, one around cycle regulation. They're like, intrigued, see what they want to talk about, and like I've done so many lunch and learns where the midwives are so cool, they just bring their lunch and learn from me. The doctors pay for fancy lunches to, be brought in and whatever. But this is how you will make so much more of an impact if you go meet the other professionals that are sharing the same demographic of patients in your area. And then when you work with somebody that has a bad experience, you can also be like, "Oh gosh, you should not be there. Let's get you over here. You need to meet Dr. So and so," or "Sounds like you need a chiropractor or a perinatal massage therapist." There's so many things. So this is something I just think is super important to think about. Most of us know a chiropractor and a massage, minimally. And even finding chiropractors that specialize in perinatal as well. When I was in San Diego, I was like, "Well, where do you live?" "Oh, I live by the beach." "Okay, so go to Lib's Chiropractic or, whatever. So there was Stephanie Lib's over there. And if it was in Kensington, it was this other Joe Merlot, like, different people in different areas trying to find the right person. And sometimes someone was really timid or had some trauma. It's like, so really thinking who would be most trauma informed, where they're going to feel the safest. And so another thing you can do is informational interviews. So I love to take advantage of this when you're a student. So for all the students there, definitely take advantage of this. "Hi, Dr. So and so. I'm a student, and my friend says you're the best OB in town. She had a baby with you recently, and I'm a local acupuncturist, and whatever. I might have a baby, and all my patients, I plan to work with this population. I'd love to ask you some questions. Do you have, some time for me?" And sometimes even 15 minutes. And now we can Zoom too, so it's so quick. Like, "I just want to know a little bit about you." People love to talk about themselves, so you're often more likely to get it in, and especially if you can name drop somebody, like someone that went to the whatever. Anyway, this is who you would include: midwives, all the local birth centers, any medical doctors who are open-minded. This includes the OBs, birth doulas, postpartum doulas, childbirth educators, placenta encapsulators. DC is a chiropractor, doctor of chiropractor who does the Webster technique. That's a special certification that chiropractors do that is like a perinatal specialization. So anybody who is Webster certified, for sure is legit kind of thing. Almost all of my patients I am referring mental health. Everybody needs a freaking therapist. Life is so stressful these days and it just doesn't end. So, from infertility to pregnancy loss to postpartum depression, so many things, just to like the struggles of changing from maiden to mother. The first child is such a shift in how you do life that she definitely needs someone to talk to. Um, and then the next thing is pelvic floor physical therapist. So a lot of people don't know about this. I didn't know about pelvic floor PT until I was 16 years postpartum. I had Push San Diego and I brought a pelvic floor PT into the clinic and I said, "Hey, can we trade? I don't even know what you do." And so I was blown away. I had had back pain since I gave birth and never figured it out. I went to the pelvic floor PT 3 times and she literally cured my back pain. Cause so it's just amazing, what they could do, how they could help both your fertility patients and then your postpartum patients, help your patients preparing for birth. So many things. So it's a great one to know. And I could introduce you to people in San Diego. If you're in San Diego, I know a lot of San Diego people, and I am pretty well connected worldwide. So I'm I'm working on creating a database of perinatal acupuncturists because each of the perinatal acupuncturists, this is a hope that they will have this, you know, compilation of people good near them. So, anyways, that's something in the mix. Postpartum doula, massage therapist, somebody who's comfortable working in pregnancy, somebody who's comfortable with the baby sitting there breastfeeding while they're. Who cares? Like it's really nice when we can find those kind of people. Not the hot dude that's 25 years old, like he's not right for this situation. We'd prefer a woman. Somebody gentle, nourishing, that kind of situation and energy. Um, Gosh, I'm gonna pause for 1 minute. I just need 1 minute. Apologies. Okay. I'm back. Apologies. Apologies. I'm back. Simulation. There. All right. So let's see. We're talking about all the amazing people to work with. Postpartum doulas are fabulous. They help integrate the baby into the family, help the other family members figure out how to, be a part of, and so on and so forth. Um, More than glorified babysitters. They help with things like lactation. They'll often have, small things or might have belly binding or all sorts of things. Um, IBCLC, International Board Certified Lactation Consultant. So lactation consultants are phenomenal. They're found in every hospital. Um, Typically everyone's encouraged to breastfeed, and so it's so nice that in San Diego, at least, you could go to any hospital and they had breastfeeding support groups, whether you birth there or not, it doesn't matter. Free. Tons of free, lactation support groups. And so you could meet a lactation consultant one-on-one, you could do a group, you could do a Zoom, you do many different things. My advice is you meet one and you have them on speed dial before you give birth. You know this person. This is something I'm going to tell my patients. So it's so important for you to know, like in San Diego, there's San Diego Breastfeeding Coalition, I think it's called. Amazing group of lactation consultants all in one place. It's in La Mesa. Um, and again, they do groups. They'll come to your house. Depends on, what the situation is, what you want to spend, whatever. A lot of times it's covered by insurance even. So it's really nice to know they're out there. I encourage all my pregnant mamas to find theirs before they give birth because if there's a breastfeeding problem, it's a problem immediately, whether it's 2 in the morning or Sunday or whatever time, the baby wants to eat again in an hour. And if your boob hurts, that's a problem. So let's, if they already have their cell number and just text them, it's so much more helpful and it just kind of speeds up the situation. And then last is pelvic or vaginal steamer. Pelvic steaming because both men and women can do steaming. And so I am not a steamer myself, but I learned from somebody named Chris Gonzalez. She has a company called Steamy Chick. She is a licensed acupuncturist that is a huge steamer. She has a whole peri-steam certification and everything. Um, and so what I learned about steaming is when somebody has unexplained infertility or a situation like endo, PCOS, um, and I'm working with them for a while and they're still not getting pregnant and they're doing the herbs and we're doing mocks, we're doing all the things. So I'm like, let's try steaming. And I'll send them to somebody. Again, in San Diego, they have steaming centers and everything. So I would send them to go get steamed with the proper herbs and they get pregnant. So it was amazing because steam can like penetrate and permeate into all of the orifices and tissues. You could use moxa, mugwort as an herb. You know, anyways, it's just another person that could potentially help your person and helps you look like a rock star to be recommending so many helpful people. When somebody is pregnant, they need a pregnancy care team. It's not up to just you, the acupuncturist, their husband, their partner, their doula. It's a lot of work to deal with that pregnant woman and take her through, to become mama. So these are our people, and the more connected they are, the sooner the better their experience goes, the more educated, the more empowered they are to make choices, to know, there are doulas, but doulas cost money, so sometimes people will ask for that at their baby shower, and to have people chip into the doula fund so that they have $1,500 is probably an average San Diego cost. I would say anywhere from 500 to 5,000, depending on all the other services they do. Um, Anyways, I could go on and on about this. Make friends with these people. This will boost your business in the long run. And it's interesting because I'm a networker by I don't know, it's in my blood. So I love to do events. I love to meet people. I love to mingle. And so I did a lot of this when I first graduated. And then I had so many doctors and midwives sending me patients that like it just became easier as I've been practicing longer because then sometimes patients would come to me and say, "Oh, well, my doula told me I should go see you." And blah blah blah, and I didn't listen to her. And then my childbirth educator actually mentioned your name and said I should go see you. And then when my therapist told me I should go see you, I knew I have to go meet you. So it is kind of nice to meet all of the people in this world. I would go have coffee with the PhDs, the people that specialize in this stuff. Yeah, they're not even on this list. Oh no, they are on the list. Okay. So yeah, and you just go have coffee. I met him once. We cross-referred for years and years and years. So it's just nice knowing who's in your community. Okay. Was there any questions with that before we move on to pregnancy 101? Okay. So we'll talk a little bit about the verbiage. We'll talk about reviewing obstetric materials, terminology, and then most of all, building confidence. We want you to feel confidence with the pregnant mamas. So you guys know the saying, a bun in the oven, especially as it relates to pregnancy. So a bun does not grow well in the fridge. And one of the things I'm seeing a lot of for fertility, pregnancy, and postpartum is that these women are freezing cold. They're yang deficient. They have cold bellies. They have cold feet. And it's a problem. It's a problem for getting pregnant. It's a problem for staying pregnant. So I do a lot of warming, pulling cold out, and warming of patients to prepare the palace, so to speak. I use that terminology from one of my teachers, Donna Keefe, and I just thought that was phenomenal. And that's something I say to all the pregnant ladies or the fertility patients, like, we want to prepare your palace, not just get you pregnant. We want to keep you pregnant, help you carry to term, have a safe delivery and recovery so that you can do it again if you so desire. And so back in my day, it's all like fertility acupuncture. And then literally, as soon as they're pregnant, they're like, bye, see you later, good luck, peace. And I have worked with so many patients over the years, or not patients, students, other licensed acupuncturists that I'm practicing for decades, some of them. And they tell me, if a pregnant lady calls me, I tell her, no, I will never take a new patient that's pregnant. I'm like, are you kidding? Send them to me. And in California, when I was in San Diego, all the San Diego acupuncturists would send me their patients once they got pregnant. I was like, what are people doing? That's so crazy. But anyways, we got to get these ladies warmed up so that they can, have their little bun in the oven. So, for as far as confidence building, that saying, fake it till you make it. This is kind of it. And so, finding the tribe, like really connecting with all of those resources locally will help you so much because there will be times when a patient presents in your office and you're just like, I have some red flag signs going on. I'm a little scared. Do I treat this person? And I'd be like, let me text my midwife friend. Hey, mama presenting 36 plus 5, second baby, XYZ. What do you think about this? And just like send them in immediately, like whatever. It really helps having those kind of friends that are OBs, doctors, um, all of these things. So that's one uh, for sure. The second is if you want to be a perinatal acupuncturist, you want to specialize in fertility, pregnancy, birth, postpartum, make it look like that in your clinic and your online presence. Put pictures of pregnant people on your website, whether you've never treated one before in your life. Pregnant people will come when they see, like, oh, that's what they want, a happy, couple with the little kid swinging in the middle or her big belly, whatever. Um, and then clinic things. There's so many things that we could do. Extra pillows, an adjustable table, that's the dream. It's thousands of dollars, but maybe you find it used or something like that. Really makes a difference in sitting them upright, that kind of thing. Another thing you could do is working with a mentor or finding other colleagues. I really encourage you to stay in connection with your friends you went to school with, even if you just shoot them a text every so often, so that when somebody presents, like I have some really good perinatal acupuncture friends, and even I get confused sometimes. I'm like, whoa, all these crazy things happening. So I'll text my friends. I'll text Dr. Austin, help. I don't know what to do with this lady. She wants herbs and she's pregnant and da da da, da, like whatever. So you got to have your mentors, and then additional resources with your professional, and word of mouth will follow. I find that I don't like to work for somebody else because I don't want to be told how to work. I don't want to have to see 3 patients an hour. It's too much. I am more of a gourmet acupuncturist than a community style acupuncturist because I want to give them everything. I want to spend time with them. I will not see more than 2 patients an hour because I feel like I'm doing a disservice. And it's crazy because San Diego's so much more expensive, everything. I was literally charging $170 an hour in California and San Diego, and I charge 100 now in Pennsylvania because it's a lower cost of living, what people will actually pay and come in and spend money on. So, you kind of have to work on it. And I'm working on the word of mouth and all the connecting with my professionals. It's a lot of work. So even if you could commit to like meet one professional a month, that's not too bad. Or if you're opening a clinic, maybe you host a wine and dine. You host an open house, something like that, and invite your perinatal professionals to the table. As far as insurance goes, this is who I would recommend you have as your insurance carrier. I did research for about a year, and I had started out with American Acupuncture Council, as do most of us because they attend all of the symposiums and they're just all up in our grill. Um, and it seems like the right thing to do. However, I was doulaing and my births weren't covered, and I didn't like that. And then they also didn't want me to treat breech babies. They don't want me to do natural promotional labor. Like, what the heck? So CMNF is about the same rate. They don't they don't give you a quarterly option like American Acupuncture Council does. You pay annually, but it's the same amount. And you're covered whether you're in California, Virginia, New Jersey, New York. If you're in an airplane, an elevator, it doesn't matter. If the baby's half in, half out, she's high risk, does not matter, you're covered. So this is who I would go with. I get nothing for telling you this. It's just something to know and a level of safety, having the right insurance, if that's the demographic you're going to work with. So I am very determined and passionate, as you can see, to teach you why we as acupuncturists play such an essential role in treating pregnancy and help you find the confidence in supporting your pregnant patients throughout their entire journey of pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. So here are some red flags to be aware of, just so you know, like what's not okay. So anytime there's a fever, that's a concern. There's some kind of infection, something's happening. Uh, I highly recommend you have blood pressure cuffs in your clinics and have the one you just push a button, make it easy for yourself, and know how to do it. But if you take the blood pressure of all your pregnant patients, you'll know if there's a problem, and that could just be part of your process. Or if you feel if you don't want to do that, to at least check blood pressure when there is a problem. So anytime there's headaches, that's a concern. I have treated women with migraines throughout their pregnancies. So for some people, it's normal to have a headache, but for others, it's not. So it kind of is it like sudden onset, visual disturbances. We're talking about spots before your eyes. I've heard people describe sparklers. Every time they say sparklers, it's preeclampsia. So, paying attention to visual weirdness happening is usually a red flag, definitely concern. And then bright red bleeding. So that's never normal in pregnancy. So if there's bright red bleeding, immediate, get to the doctor kind of thing. So, any questions about red flags? Okay. Mhm. So these are some of the risk factors that would make somebody high risk. So people always say, well, am I high risk? I'm 42, I'm having my first baby. No, you're actually not high risk unless you have a medical condition, like a pre-existing medical condition. Preeclampsia is definitely a high risk, and that's something that all of those red flags are pointing towards. So it's especially important in the second half of pregnancy to paying attention to these things. There's a HELP syndrome. It's like elevated liver enzymes, something like that. You'll know if they have that or not, and yeah, we could talk about that more. Advanced maternal age is AMA. So, when I ask midwives if she's 42, she never had a baby before, she has no risk factor, she does yoga every day, she eats a healthy, clean diet, like, is she high risk? No, no, that's what they say. So it just depends on her situation. Gestational diabetes, she developed diabetes during the pregnancy. This is a big one. And so sometimes women will develop gestational diabetes and they're planning a natural birth. And if they have gestational diabetes, they're risked out with midwives. Midwives, legally, their scope of practice ends and the doctor begins. And so if she's with the midwife and she's planning a home birth and she pops with gestational diabetes, no more home birth. She's going to have to go to the hospital. It's a big deal. So people have to get their diet under control. The biggest thing I see and that I work with is spleen chi deficiency. We got to tonify their spleen. We got to teach them to eat at regular intervals. We have to teach them that our body prefers warmth. Our spleen wants warm, soupy foods, wants to eat at the same time every day or every 4 hours or 6 hours, whatever it is for her body to keep that spleen strong because spleen chi deficiency will turn into spleen chi sinking when she's now pregnant and not feeling well, so she doesn't want to eat, and her diet is even worse. And so, and so on and so forth. Like I think about one of my best friends when she got pregnant with her first kid, she got gestational diabetes. She was planning to birth at UCSD in their birthing center. If you are in San Diego, it is so freaking awesome. UCSD is my favorite hospital because they give you two options. You can be with the midwives if you have a problem or there's a problem with your baby, and then you can be with the midwives if you are a healthy woman having a healthy baby. Um, and there's a midwifery floor, a birthing center within the hospital, and they have big beds and tubs and all these beautiful things. And God forbid you need a C-section, you go one floor down. So it is kind of nice to have that. And UCSD also has a program that if you pop with gestational diabetes, they insist you go to a class. So now you take a 2-week class with your partner to learn about diet and exercise. Like if you go for a walk after every meal, that will lower your chances of diabetes, or especially at night. And so just getting your numbers under control can make such a difference and also prevent them from having unwanted interventions to work with the hospital instead of, a midwife, that kind of thing. Unfortunately, obesity is a big thing, and that does make them a higher risk. And it just is more of a concern for problems. I see a lot of C-sections in obese women. VBAC is a vaginal birth after a cesarean. So a lot of doctors and hospitals are like, once a C-section, always a C-section. Think about how much money a surgery makes over a vaginal birth and for the doctor, for the hospital. So it's like there's VBAC bans in hospitals. It's so messed up. I could go on and on about this. So if somebody has a C-section, they absolutely can have a vaginal birth as long as they have the right provider. So if somebody is wanting to VBAC and their doctor's telling them no, I encourage them to look around, shop around, talk to a couple other places, see what everybody says. Because, even, I mean, in San Diego, I've VBAC'd at UCSD. They're amazing. So past experiences, like I had a loss, so I was, they actually told me that I wouldn't be considered high risk until I had 3 losses. I was like, I'll be in the mental institution if I have 3 losses. But I went to a lot of support groups. There's a group called Empty Cradle in San Diego. And then I started supporting other women through Empty Cradle, and then another called Sidelines, which subsequent women going through pregnancy after a loss. And it's really nice to give back and to help others. And anyways, other risk factors, fibroids, fever is a concern for an infection. If somebody has a major like heart disease, kidney disease, liver disease, they have cancer, autoimmune, these are high risk things. Age is not a thing, especially if they're healthy. So it's really not as many people as they think. Like most of my patients have doctors and don't need them and probably don't want to be with them. And I could just go on and on about experiences that I've heard and seen and witnessed where like so much happens as the baby's about to be born, and sometimes 8, 10 people will enter the room. And if it's commotion and there's decelerations, several times the dads have been shoved out of the room. And so I was with one family, and the dad was shoved out of the room. I was not there for the first birth. He missed the birth. She hated him. She was like resentful of him. She was not able to bond with the baby because she was so upset her husband and her husband was like, oh my God. And so then she gets pregnant again. I worked with her, um, and I saw her every 2 weeks through her fertility, through her whole pregnancy. She was amazing. And every 2 weeks, I see her. And so in the early part of her pregnancy, she says, I want you to be my doula. I want you to be my educator, everything. So I'm educating her on things. And I taught her about a midwife because she had this horrible experience with the doctors. And so she decided, okay, I'm going to see the doctor because that's what her husband wanted and that's what he felt safe with. But I kind of want to see a midwife too. So they use their insurance, go see their doctor, and they paid out of pocket for their midwife. They didn't tell their doctor that they were seeing a midwife. And um, the husband eventually came around to the point where she's 36, 37 weeks, and he said, okay, babe, you choose where you want to birth. I will support you no matter what. I'm going to be their doula. So then she goes into labor. She chooses to go to the birth center. She's in the tub. This is during COVID. Um, so the birth was so fast. It was like 5 hours from start to finish. Her husband was able to catch the baby in the water and place the baby onto her chest. I could just start crying now, thinking about how healing this was for this beautiful family. And it was such a better recovery for her. She was so much easier to able to integrate this new one into her family. And so this is how we can make such a freaking difference. And, educating them on all of these different things. So more places that we can educate them. And I think that us as acupuncturists, just, we have so much to give. And we're like incredible doctors and healers. Nobody else takes the time that we take with our patients. Nobody else educates them like we do. And I used to have a lot of interns following me in San Diego, and my interns would always say, it's like you're their therapist and their acupuncturist all in one. So it's kind of cool that there is so much we can do just with lifestyle and diet and how we can help these people help themselves. So again, I go back to the diet because some people are just stuck in this American society of eating fast food, cheap food, seed oils, all the wrong things, and they're obese and they don't understand why. And so educating them one step at a time, 1 week at a time. It's like Rome wasn't built in a day, so it's like we just have to slowly work on things, but eating at regular interval, avoiding sugar, dropping a few pounds, those kind of things make such a difference. Exercise. So if we're talking about pregnancy, most pregnant women love to walk, they love to do yoga, and they love to swim. So get them into something like that, especially if it's hot out. It's amazing to have a pregnant, buoyant belly in the pool. It's just absolutely lovely. And then lifestyle. I find that I'm teaching a lot of lifestyle to my fertility patients because my typical fertility patient is like, 32-year-old female, not getting pregnant. She's a lawyer and she works 60 plus hours a week. She's also a runner and runs 10 to 15 miles a week. And I'm just like, girl, she's kidney inefficient. What are we gonna do with it? You have to take some energy and save it for your baby. And, if, and then she's only sleeping 6 hours a night. So I would teach things like the crazy eights. And so is she getting 8 hours of sleep a night? Is she getting 8 glasses of water a day? Is she getting 8 fruits and vegetables a day? These are the ingredients that are going to create her child and that can just make such a big difference. Um, so yeah, these are factors within her control. And I think early on, I was always having people being like, oh, poor me, poor me. Oh, my whole family has diarrhea. And it's like, no, you all have a horrible diet. It's your culture. I hate to say it, but I work with a lot of Hispanics in California, and it was like they all like spicy, greasy, fried foods. And it was so hard to get them off the salsa and the spices, and so it's like you got to figure out where to meet them where they're at, the 80/20 rule, all the things to consider. So many things. Another thing, like this kind of is the same thing as these conscious conversations. Um, if somebody had a difficult time getting pregnant, she's going to have a difficult time staying pregnant. She needs to continue care and she needs to know that immediately. And so if you've been seeing this patient once a week for fertility, she needs to come once a week at least the first trimester. And, maybe we could space it out to every other week or once a month the second trimester, but she needs to know that. And so having these conversations like, okay, typically I see somebody once a week the first trimester, anywhere from once a week to once a month the second trimester. And then typically in the third trimester, I'm seeing them once a week once they hit about 34 weeks, and twice a week once they're 38, and then every other day if they're about a week out from an induction or C-section. So just like putting it all out there. Other things to consider is that if they have had a loss and whether it's a 6 week, if it's 8 months, if whatever, a loss is a loss is a loss. It doesn't matter. It's their future baby, their future child. We have to honor that. And we also have to encourage them not to get pregnant right away. So my fertility patients, this is common. They get pregnant, they've been trying for a year, they go 8 weeks and they have a loss, and so they're devastated, but they want to get pregnant next month. No, 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 no. You were pregnant for 2 months. You should take at least 2 months off. So, things, again, more conscious conversations, thinking about it, making sure she's supported mentally with this. And then my number one tip would be whenever you're treating a pregnant patient, they're always going to be a little bit nervous about getting acupuncture. That's the elephant in the room. So I start out with everyone like, okay, so have you ever had acupuncture before? A lot of times they had never have. And so people are willing to come when they're pregnancy. They'll do anything for pregnancy. So it's so important. So I say, okay, well, I'm going to start with the hold the baby in point. So this is, we draw a line between your ears and your nose up to the highest point in your body. And it has that upward motion of holding, lifting, and so every time I treat you while you're pregnant, and until you're ready to give birth, we're going to always put do 20 in. And so it's like, oh, I feel a little more comfortable with this now. And then if I ever forget to do that point, just remind me and I'll do it, put it in right away. And so then I'm like empowering. I'm not perfect and maybe, who knows, whatever. Let's see here. So important considerations, setting the intention for both patient and you each and every time. So again, I'm getting the long-term patient. I don't want the one and done. I don't have time for that. I put so much into my time with you. I'm like, talking as fast as I can to try to help you, to do moxa, to do this, to do that. Like, whoo, it's a lot. So, getting them to commit. I also just offer one package in my practice. I have one price for initial, lower price for the follow-up, and then I'll do one package of 10. I'll give them like a 15% discount, and most people will just purchase the packages. And then it's easy because they're 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. And it's so much easier for me, 1,000, like you could just plan your life a little bit better. You don't have to check them out for 10 times, or 9 more times. And oh, Thursdays at 4 work for you? Okay, great. Let's just schedule that out the next 10 weeks. Really helpful. Another thing is slowing down. This is for them. And this is important. Again, these are my patients where I see that are saying, oh, I'm working all the time. I have a 2-year-old at home. Um, I'm trying to work out and then they have a busy social life every single weekend. So I'm like, look, you have to make time for this baby. It's really important that you slow down. Uh, you don't need to do CrossFit now that you're pregnant. I would encourage you to do yoga, find a swimming class, find a Tai Chi, Qigong, walking group, something that will resonate with you more. Um, and then the other thing is planning for the birth. It really is never too early to start. So many times, almost every time I hear them say, "Oh, I like, oh my gosh, it's here." It sneaks up quickly. And so really thinking about their birth, I ask all my pregnant patients in their first visit, "Do you have a doula?" And they're like, "What's a doula?" So I'll explain that, what a doula is. I'll explain the importance of a doula. Not having a doula is like not having flowers at your wedding. You would never do that, right? So a lot of times service industries aren't really valued in the US, like doulaing. And so people are not accustomed to pay for it, but these people are worth their weight in gold. And the dads every time are just like so in love with me. They sometimes write reviews. It's great. It's really good. Um, and then the other thing is like resources. So have you guys heard of evidence-based birth? Have you ever heard of that place? Uh, Google it, evidence-based birth. They have lots of free resources and it's evidence-based articles related to pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. So these are issues and questions your patients are going to ask you. So you look like an expert to have the latest and the greatest of the information. So just check them out. You can get on their list. They have lots of great emails and classes and so on and so forth. Um, okay. Let's see. And then Birthify is another company that I absolutely love. This was a doula in San Diego that started this company, and it's an online doula. So people who are in remote areas that don't have access can get the information, and it's so much cheaper than not a real doula, because they are real doulas working for you. Just another really great resource to have, especially for our pregnant patients. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Um, Communication is key. Just I always want my patients to feel safe and comfortable. And I'll literally say those words like, "Do you feel safe and comfortable before I step out of the room?" Okay, great. Um, Here's a doorbell. I want you to just press the button if you need me. I'm right down the hall. I'll hear it right away. I'll come in. And that's really nice that they don't feel alone. that kind of thing. I also let them know, like, I'm going to be 15 to 20 minutes. Then they're not like, oh God, where is she? What's happening? Whatever. Setting the expectations. This is what I need you to come once a week. And most people come once a week, and I just find that they do better when they're coming regular. Yeah, of course. When they're coming regularly, and that they could expect to come regularly, and that this is going to cost them money. And, sometimes I work with people too. I have had several women over the years come to me and say, I need you. I hear you're the best. I can't afford you. And I said, what can you afford? And they tell me a number and I say, fine, thank you. I will take that. That's great. And so, when we work for ourselves, we can do that. And so, like, as a single mama, I really felt for the single moms out there. So anytime a single mom, I don't care, my rate was $170, they pay me $60 an hour. I don't care. Like, I was happy and honored to serve and to be of service. So, um, let's see, share the patient how you can support them. So when you're working with a fertility patient is a great time to teach them what you can do during pregnancy. Oh, well, if your baby's breech, or if your baby develops placenta previa, if you definitely need natural promotional labor, labor preparation, those kind of things. If anything weird comes up, make sure you let me know. And then when they're pregnant, hey, you might not have thought of this, but acupuncturists can help with like mastitis, with breast related issues. I've literally taught myself how to cup women's breasts that have mastitis, and I pull the gunk right out and it works like a charm immediately. It's unbelievable. So, how you can help them, especially going forward. And then again, for us, don't be afraid to ask for help. Ask me for help. How can I support you? I will help you find the right resource. Befriend Catherine Austin, whoever it is, get friendly with your local midwives and doctors. That's where I feel like it's really powerful and really supportive for us to know, like, actually, no, I can't treat you. And, there's been times where I couldn't treat people because of things. So, let's see more. I think I mentioned this. If it's difficulty getting pregnant, they're going to have a difficult time staying pregnant. And it's just so sad. Like, I had a woman that went through infertility and so much stuff, and she's just so busy, busy, busy. So she comes to me for like 12 weeks straight. She gets pregnant, and then she's like, oh, misses her appointment. She's late and cancels, doesn't want to reschedule. She lost a baby at 10 weeks. I hate that. I hate that so much. And I'm so sad, but can't make them. But that's the importance of regular treatments. And then about like that bun in the oven, it's really important that she stay warm. It's really important that her feet are warm. If her feet are freezing cold, it's not funny and it's not cute. Put your Uggs on. Wear socks. I see these women here in Philadelphia dressing all nice, and then they wear these shoes with no socks. It's freezing cold out. Their feet are icebergs. I spent 20 minutes with Moxa and a hot pack and a heat lamp. She's finally warm and now she goes right back out. It's like, come on. So things like that. I'll teach people to make a hot pack at home and just make it yourself. Whatever. Throw some rice into an old sock, tie a knot, put some lavender, your favorite essential oil, throw it in the microwave, 2 minutes, boom, done. Um, you could warm your feet up before you go to bed. So at least your feet are warm for 8 hours, at least 1/3 of the day. That's helping you. Also, talking about what are you eating? And so many of my patients are saying, oh, well, I eat so healthy. I had a smoothie for breakfast and I had a salad for lunch. And I'm like, cold, cold, cold. Like, if you're having a smoothie, make sure you have a cup of ginger tea with that, like sip for sip, keeping it warm, or maybe you're putting ginger into that. Or if you're going to eat a salad, have some grilled chicken, or some fish or whatever, something warm. So just really, really important. There's a lot of foods that can support pregnancy. There's a lot of books and resources. I'm just looking to see if one of my books is here. One of my favorite is a woman. Her name is Heng O. I'll put it in the chat. She is an acupuncturist. Oops, what are we doing? Out of Los Angeles, and she has several books on her first book was a postpartum food book, and that's how I learned of her. Just phenomenal. And she's a pregnancy book, so just a great resource for you. Making a plan with how often are you coming in for treatments? What else do you need? I find a lot of my patients do need a therapist. They absolutely need a therapist. I encourage that early on when they're fertility patients. You need a therapist to go through this. It's so much more helpful if you can have support. And then I tell people too, like, it's okay to ask for support. It's okay to tell your husband, you know what? I can't go to 3 events this weekend. I need to lay in bed and rest. I need help. I can't do the laundry on my day off. I need to actually sleep. Or asking your mom, your bestie, your auntie, whoever, help. They say it takes a village. This is the time we got to call our village in. But in the US, we're all like in our own little homes and areas and clinics. And so sometimes people are lost. So, really encouraging people to ask for help from people that love them the most because they want to help, right? I thought this was funny. They say it takes a village. I believe it also takes a vineyard. Haha. I don't know if you drink or not, but whatever. All right, moving on into clinic setup. So these are things that you could have in your clinic that is really helpful for comfort of the pregnant women. So ideally, if you can get a table that goes up and down and elevates, has 3 different levels, that's wonderful. There's heat lamps where you can actually hand the patient the handheld controller. Don't get these horrible heat lamps from that you see in the school. Get the oh my gosh, not a TDP lamp, but an infrared light because you click it on, boom, it's red and hot. You don't have to wait 10 minutes for it to heat up. Those are terrible. Lots of pillows. Wedges is like a triangular pillow, especially if you don't have the adjustable table, that's helpful. Table warmers, hot packs, extra blankies. One of my teachers told me this when I was going through PCOM, and I'm so grateful. And she said, save your baby blankies when you're having your babies because it's really nice to cover a little shoulder if it's exposed or an ankle or something when someone's on the treatment table and they don't want to be cold. So those are great. And then I mentioned the doorbell. I'm so not a fix-it person, but I learned from one of my work husband that you can have a doorbell and you just go to Home Depot and you buy a 3 pack and it's got 3 different buttons and you can put one in each of your rooms. You can program them so they all sound different. And then you put the plug in the break room or your office. And then if somebody needs you, they ding you and boom, you're there. It's amazing. This is also something fabulous. I tend to do a lot of eye pillows, so I'll do the regular rice, pillows if they're supine. But if they're pregnant, a lot of times I'm having them on their side. So the 40 blinks, this is great. You can get on Amazon, $12. Bed Bath and Beyond, you can get them there too. And they have cutouts for your eyes, and then they have Velcro. So this is also great for traveling, for being in the hospital, giving birth. I always recommend moms have that. Helps them just go within, connect to the baby. And then guided meditations. This is another thing I love to share with my patients is I use the app called Insight Timer. So it's a free app you can get on your phone. And what I really like about Insight Timer is you can type in keywords. So I could type in uh, knee pain. I could type in anxiety. I could type in pregnancy. I can type in IVF insemination, like all these different things. So I have a couple that I play often. Find a 20, 30-minute one if that's how long you're going to leave them in there. And then you basically you set them up how you're going to set them up. Okay, you feel safe and comfortable. Okay, great. Here's the doorbell. Now I'm going to push play. And then you walk out and it gives their brain something to focus on. And I think it helps people relax more. And then my fertility patients, especially, they're like coming in, oh, I can't get pregnant. I can't hold a baby. And I'm like, thoughts are things. Cancel, cancel. Let's get you pregnant. You can get pregnant. You can carry it. Like, we're just programming positivity into their brain. Um, One thing that I learned the hard way with this is that for surrogates, so I did work a lot with surrogates in California, and this is another way that you can get patients is with working with surrogate agencies. So surrogates are carrying babies for moms who can't, and they don't want to connect to their babies. They are doing a job because it's the woman's egg and his sperm, and she's the oven, so to speak. And so, like, you don't want to play the same guided meditations for a surrogate as you would with a regular person, a regular pregnant mom. So, anyways, just play as soon as you walk out, and done. My next topic is moxibustion and its importance. And a lot of us acupuncturists have sold out to the PTs, the DCs, the working in corporate America, and they're not using Moxa. And you're doing a huge disservice to your patients to not use Moxa. So you have to use Moxa if you're going to have a perinatal practice, and this is what will set you up different from anyone else. And when I get calls and people say, "Well, I've been to acupuncture," and I'll say, "Did she use Moxa? What's that?" "Oh, the heated stick? I don't know what you're talking about." That wasn't a perinatal acupuncturist, like, so I do hear a lot of people that work with DOs or, in a chiropractic office that they're not allowed to use heat. They can only use cold. So don't work there. If you can avoid that, work for yourself. But there's also other options for Moxa. There's Moxa hot packs. And I have some slides on that, but you do want to make sure you have good ventilation. Ideally, you have a window you could open or at least an air filter in all the rooms. Uh, the different kinds of moxa I use is pole moxa, abuki moxa, or hot packs. I have pictures of it. So this is the pole moxa that I use. It's a smokeless kind. So I light it with a candle because it does take a little while. It's like charcoal. And then I'll use uncooked rice in the bottom of a jar, like like a jar like this or something, and just put the rice there. And I'm not gonna bang it to ash it. I'm gonna wipe it in the rice or swipe it so that the ash just falls off naturally, and that big cherry is never gonna fall off on someone, because I've actually had it fall off of me when interns were working on me because I have such a cold belly. This is the abuki I use. Both the moxas have a hole in the middle, so they're easier to light and stay lit. I find the smokeless ones being used in most school clinics suck, and there's no hole. And so you can't light it and it doesn't stay lit, it just extinguishes. So get these kinds much better. Um, this is a Moxa hot pack. I get it from Amazon. I can't find it anywhere else. It's like $17.99 for 10 of them. These are the greatest things ever. You rip them out of the bag, and when they're exposed to air, they heat up. They last up to 24 hours. They're freaking amazing for births, for camping, for cold weather. I literally lived with one almost every day to survive this winter in the freezing cold. I miss California so much. Let's see, what did you say? Yes, your faves. Perfect. Um, so this is great. I can't say enough good things. And another cool thing about this Moxa hot pack is, if say you use it for 4 hours and you're going to go to bed and you're not going to use it. So again, you get your little Bell canning jar, not with water, but you put the hot pack in here, you put the lid on, it literally turns it off, and then you can reuse it the next day for however many hours you have left. So it's such a great product. This is a smokeless moxa, or electric moxa, I should say. You can get it at Lhasa. It's expensive, but so for the hospitals, for people working in medical clinics, you put the moxa stick in, there is no smoke and no smell. Oh my gosh, amazing. And it's like an ultrasound, like where you're just heating over the area. So just utilizing technology. I know there's sprays, all different things. Um, and then this is one of those tables that is adjustable. And I call this the queen throne position because I always feel like she's like a queen on her throne. So where the table's elevated, so she's sitting upright. We have a bolster under her knees, a pillow under her head. They're very comfortable in this position. Um, let's see. So this is the queen throne position. and one of the most comfortable positions you can get them in when they're pregnant. You don't want to lean them too far back because then the baby smushes them a little bit. I use body pillows. I get it at Bed Bath and Beyond. It's like $20, just a long pillow. So the picture on the left here is how I treat most of my pregnant ladies is on the side lying. I don't care if it's left or right. It's really up to her. And this particular patient was coming in twice a week. She was probably 38, 39 weeks pregnant at the time. So one day she would be on the right, one day she would be on the left. She had no risk factors. We were good. And so I like this position because I can access her head, her hands, all of her back, her butt. I can get the yang side of one leg, the yin side of the other leg. And so I make sure I can access those areas. And then here on the right, it is me doing what's called a double hip squeeze and just squeezing. This is great for natural labor. I was her doula, and she was also my patient, and she wanted a natural birth. So I was just squeezing her GB30 basically inward, and that feels amazing for back pain in pregnancy. So let's see, understand pregnancy, obstetric terminology and intake. So the gestation is a period of fetal development in the womb. Gravida is how many times she got pregnant. Prima gravida is a first-time pregnancy, and a multipara or multip, they'll say, is somebody who's had at least one baby before. So at the OB, they'll say gravida and para, so how many times she got pregnant, and para, how many times she pushed a baby out or had a C-section. That just kind of helps us quantify all the things happening. So these are intake questions that you can ask, and these are questions I ask all of my pregnant patients. Um, did you have any past pregnancies? Was there any complications? Are you considered high risk? How many weeks are you? And then she'll say, oh, I'm the 35. Okay, what day do you turn 36? Because it kind of helps, because they always lose track at some point. What's your due date? Do you have a doctor or a midwife? So I'm kind of seeing where she's coming in from. Any information from your last visit? When was that last visit? Um, where are you giving birth? Is there any complications? Do you have a doula? And did you do childbirth education? I asked that to get their brains thinking about, of course, you should be taking a class on this outside of the hospital. You need to take a class outside your birthing facility to learn all the options, because unfortunately, inside the hospital, they're teaching you how to be a good patient and how they do it there. So they really, if they're birthing in the hospital, it's really important that they would take a class outside. These are the common things that I'm seeing during pregnancy. So nausea, vomiting, fatigue, pain, anemia, headache, swelling, varicose veins, group B strep, and gestational diabetes are further along in um, the pregnancy. Gestational diabetes, I believe they test around 24, 26 weeks, and group B strep is like 35 weeks. So just starting to learn, like, oh, did you get tested for gestational yet? Okay, how'd that go? Oh, you have that next week. Okay, so make sure you're not eating pasta and you're eating crap the night before. Like, have a lot of protein and eat your fruits and vegetables and drink lots of water. We don't want you to have a problem and come up with gestational diabetes if there's any way we can avoid it. Let's see, what do you do for exercise? How do you feel emotionally? And I love to ask, what do you do for fun? And it's funny because some people are like, fun? Like, what is that? I just work. I don't know. So, and then my last question is always, is there anything else I didn't ask that you think I should know about your case? And the magic comes out a lot of times at that moment. So let's see, tongue pulse, etiology, treatment, diagnosis, and then I'll put patient education because I don't want to over educate them too. So I'll kind of do a little bit at a time, and yeah, I just want to help them. And then let's see. And then referrals made. If I referred them to a doula, I'm gonna follow up next time. Hey, did you call Sherry? Did you talk to her? What'd she have to say? Is she available? And then if there's any research to do. So those are the questions I would typically ask for, let's see, I got mine in print. Okay. All right, so high risk pregnancy, we mentioned this earlier. They have an existing thing. They have high blood pressure, they have, whatever, blood clots. You'll know if they're high risk. And again, most of the women are not truly high risk. So it is a little more scary, but we can still treat these patients in their own way. So this is a perfect time for a break. So let's take let's say, okay. I'm just gonna say 25 minutes. So that puts us back at 40, 05, something like that. Right, 20, 08. Okay. 08, and we'll be back then. I'll see you soon. I set my timer. Awesome. Okay. Perfect. Hello, hello. Welcome back. Welcome back. Okay, I am just gonna move to our next slide here. And again, we're just gonna mention the importance of connecting with the different birth professionals. And the easiest, the lowest hanging fruit is the birth doulas because doulas love us because we can help their patients, their clients, with all their issues. And then we can teach them stuff too. So if you do have a clinic, that might be a fun service class to offer, acupressure for labor and teach the doulas. And even if it's, very inexpensive, that then they know about you and they, have met you and can refer you. And I had such a lovely group of doulas referring me in San Diego. It was really nice. Over and over, the same doulas would refer me. So very helpful, as well as midwives or someone's doctor referring you. Like whenever a doctor referred me, patients were so compliant and always listened to the suggestions. So I found that interesting as well. Um, so birth doula. So what is a birth doula? We're going to talk about all these different things around birth doula. What is a doula? The training and licensing, the scope of practice of a doula, the importance of working as a team with a doula, and then what is acu doula, which is something we could all do. So to start off, the word doula comes from the ancient Greek word meaning a woman who serves, doser. Uh, and when I first heard it, I heard it was a woman slave, and I was like, oh God, I'll never do that. Like, look at me now. Look at me now. I don't know. Um, so let's see. A woman is now used to refer to a trained and experienced professional who provides continuous physical, emotional, and informational support to the mom before, during, and just after birth. Or if it's a postpartum doula who provides emotional and practical support during the postpartum period. So studies have shown that when doulas attend the births, labors are shorter, they have less complications, babies are healthier, and the moms and babies breastfeed more easily. So it's a way more positive experience in my own personal opinion and experience. So again, a birth doula provides continuous emotional, mental, physical support, not only to the mom, but her partner and any friends or family that are also attending. They are always on call and available 24/7. So this can be challenging because, birthdays, holidays, your partner's birthday, it's whatever, vacation. So it's definitely challenging to be a birth doula. So I have a lot of respect for people who are able to do this, because sacrificing their own lives a lot of times to serve others, but really can make such a difference. And so we help families prepare for the birth, prepare for what life will be like with a baby, and really presenting as a calm, cool, collective, confident presence at the birth. We can help with breastfeeding. However, honestly, in my experience birthing in the hospital, there is a dedicated lactation consultant for that reason. So I tend to let them do their job. I do my job. A lot of times after the birth happens, I can step back. Oh, would you like me to take pictures? That's kind of the role I step into if everything's doing well. Let's see. And then you supply resources. So something happens and you're like, oh, you should see this acupuncturist. You should see this chiropractor. Hey, did you know a pelvic floor PT could help you with that? All these little things, you become a really good hub and resource for them. Doulas recognize birth as a key experience. The mom will remember all her life. And a woman will never forget how she was made to feel during her birth, during the birth of her children. So doulas understand the physiology of the birth and the emotional needs of the laboring mom, assists the woman in preparing for and carrying out her birth plans, and stays with the woman all throughout the labor. You don't leave a woman alone in labor. Doulas provide emotional support, physical comfort measures, objective viewpoint. It's helpful, as well as helping the woman get information if she needs to make informed decisions. And again, we talk a lot about these things prenatally, and I've found that the more time I invest prenatally in my doula client, the less time I spend at the birth. And we talk about what if this happens? What would we do? And what if that happens? And at least she thinks about it and we spend some time at one point. Okay, I'm just checking here, making sure. Sorry. I wasn't sure if I froze or something. So coming back online. Here we go. What's happening? Apologies. Apologies. Okay. Okay, can you see? Are we good? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, doula provides emotional support, communication. Sometimes we help them facilitate what's happening. Okay, this is happening. Now we have to consider this. And so I would teach a woman to say, "Hey, can I have a few minutes with my doula so we can talk about, what are the pros and cons? What should we do this? Should we not? What are the risks, the benefits, all the things." Doulas perceive the role as nurturing, protecting the mom's memory of the birth experience, and allowing a partner to participate at their level of involvement is so important because some partners hire us and are just like, this is women's business and that's why you're here. And they really want nothing to do with it. And other ones like really want to be up in her grill and right next to her every step of the way. So it's amazing. So we talked about licensing for, I'm a Dona doula. I just chose Dona because I thought they had the higher standards. They were the best. Kappa is another organization, and it's nothing in comparison to acupuncture. Like we just went through 3,500 hours, of training and certification. It's a 21-hour class. You read a few books, you write a few reports, but you also don't have to be a licensed doula. You can just be trained, as myself and Portia are, because there's no need to be licensed for Dona with a medical license. Okay, so let's talk about AcuDoula a little bit. And so if you choose to be someone's AcuDoula, you have two options. You can be their doula and you're on call 24/7 from the minute they hire you and you charge a higher fee. Or you could offer to not be on call and charge a much lower fee and you're throwing it out there to them. Hey, I could support the birth. Um, if you need me for pain, for anxiety, progression of labor, nausea, vomiting, all of those different reasons are reasons I'd be called in. Now, I have found that it's really wonderful if I'm friends with the doula, that the doula has my cell number and she's like, hey, mom's not doing well. I think you could be beneficial soon. Are you available today? And it's more easily facilitated with somebody else asking me to come in than the woman in labor. So for example, I was charging $3,000 in San Diego to be their doula, and I was charging $300 to come to facilitate a change, to be there for an hour or so, kind of thing. They call me. I have done that many, many times. People I don't even know. Pre-COVID, a lot. After COVID, it's just really been my own patients. So as an acudoula, there's many things that we could do. And we could use tuina. We can use our hands. They love massage. Women love massage in labor. Tuina, hip rocking, so many different things. We teach And I have classes on Net of Knowledge or LASA OMS. So if you're a student and you don't need the CEUs, it's even cheaper. Like I have a birthing class on there, and it's just really interesting information and stuff I'm so geeked out about and excited to share. You can use essential oils like using clary sage helps with progression, using peppermint helps with nausea vomiting, using something like orange or citrus will help elevate the mood and get things going. Rebozo is a Mexican scarf. It's just a long like blanket shawl like thing that you can do a lot of techniques with pregnant women. Go to YouTube and type in Rebozo pregnancy, and you can see it's amazing. All of the things, and you literally could use a sheet, so you don't need the fancy. It's like $20, so it's not too bad. But anyways, there's relaxation techniques. So at some point in my career, I started to feel confident enough to just talk in a slower voice and play some nice relaxing music and kind of walk her through into a more positive situation or mindset or whatever, helping her. You can also play meditations, and that is sometimes so much easier because it's already done for you. And we could be working and doing the acupuncture or whatnot, and playing a relaxation meditation or affirmations for birth, because a lot of times it's like fear, fear, fear with birth. So playing things that are like helping them relax, sink into their body, connect to their baby will really help. Or saying things like positive affirmations, like my body opens easily. I have a gentle 8-hour birth, things like that. Uh, and the last bullet point here is interesting. As an acudoula, we do have to be mindful because as an acupuncturist, we have licensed medical licenses, licensed healthcare professional, but a doula is a non-medical role. So it is challenging to wear both hats at the same time. Like if I'm doing acupuncture while she's in labor, it's like within 2 minutes she's contracting again and I have to help her breathe. So I have to pull the needles actually, so they're not even in that. So it's just very different, and can be challenging. So more recently in my career, I would bring assistants with me to the births that are also licensed acupuncturists or acupuncture students, and I would say, look, you be the acupuncturist and I'll be the doula. And so I would like help them figure out what to do or tell them when to do whatever. Other AcuDoula things, good to know. It's really great to try to be part of the team because acupuncturists aren't typically considered part of the birthing team. So we want to insert ourselves and be charismatic and connecting and engaging, educational to the medical professionals we interact with. So we could, modeling the care, how we're doing acupressure. Oh, hey, you want to learn? I teach them all the time. They do want to learn. But also knowing our own scope and where our scope ends and the next one picks up. For example, if a woman is in labor and she'll say, Deb, how's the baby doing? Because she's hooked up to the monitor. That is not my job. The baby is actually the nurse's job. So I'll turn to the nurse and I'll be like, hey, nurse, could you tell us how the baby's doing from the strip? Because that's just knowing my scope. And yeah, that's just not something I need to be dealing with or talking about or whatever. Um, Prenatal meetings. So I do this, and through my donor training, they said, one or two. I have found giving them more time, giving them more meetings makes a bigger difference. And I have found that the more hours I invest prenatally, the less time the birth goes, the less time I'm spending at the birth. So I do think there's something to educating her, to getting her to feel confidence, yada, yada. Okay, so what's the difference between a doula and a midwife? So this is a doula, and then this is a midwife. So a doula is handling her mental, emotional, spiritual aspects. A midwife is touching her vagina, is delivering her baby. We are not touching vaginas. We are not delivering babies. So a doula is a non-medical role where a midwife is medical. Uh, yes. So that's the easiest understanding to say it. So there are different options for families, and a lot of people are not aware of these options. I thought you had to always have an OB. I thought you always just go to the doctor, right? No, you can be, at any age and see a midwife and do your well woman pap with a midwife. You don't have to go see a doctor. So I did that, and they spend an hour with you and they go through all these things. So it's really amazing to work with them and learning about different options. So a doctor or OB would care for sick women and or sick, unhealthy babies. There's a problem. So doctors are looking for problems. So when normal, healthy women are birthing in hospitals, they're just looking for something to go wrong. The blood pressure spikes, they add this drug, they do that, that kind of thing. Versus midwives caring for normal, healthy women, having normal, healthy babies, also being a little more supportive, where midwives will come, to you after giving birth that day, the next day, day 7, day 14, day 21, and then also at week 6. And then you have the option to do a vaginal exam, where in the medical world, you give birth and they're like, bye, see you in 6 to 8 weeks, depending if the baby came out your vagina or your belly. Um, so it's just, there's not as much support, I think. And the women who birth with midwives tend to feel a lot more emotionally supportive. And then asking her what she wants her birth to be like. Different people have different ideas or visions, and there's so many ways to help them get what they want. And as a doula, I have helped people, they realize they want a shower. And so it's like, I know that if I can get a couple in the shower in labor, that can get things going, because they could be kissing and he's loving on her and she's getting all warm and soapy or whatever. Um, and it's just really nice when there's ways that we can support what they want when they actually think about what they want and know about the roles. This is a bunch on midwives. So the natural and best option for low risk women, the World Health Organization designated 2020 as the International Year of the Nurse and Midwives. Midwives have a proven record for quality, safety, cost savings, and high patient satisfaction, yet they're only attending 10% of the births in the United States. And in many countries with better maternal mortality and morbidity outcomes, midwives are attending 50 to 70% of the births there. So why do we have 90% of OBs caring for the majority of healthy women? There's clearly something wrong with our system. Um, this talks about just the numbers of births and midwives. I'll send you the PowerPoint so you have all of these. There's different levels of midwifery as well. So depending on your level of education, you could get a bachelor's, you could have a master's degree. Um, and then midwives are also certified by the American College of Nurse Midwives. So it just depends on their level of education. Again, direct entry midwife. A lay midwife is not something we really see much anymore. I have heard of it in Hawaii and remote areas. And yeah, that's the only time I've really heard of that anymore. Like in this day and age, I think it's really mandatory that people have the licensing, the education, all of that. So okay, where would a woman potentially give birth? So, like I said earlier, it's either home, hospital, or birth center. Most people birthing in the hospital, and then the other is like along the side of the road on the way to the hospital. So, if that's happening, it's typically a healthy birth, a fast birth, and you pull over, she gives birth, and then you continue on your way to the hospital, get everyone checked out, and you're good to go. So less than 2% of women in the United States birth at home for home birth. So I'll talk a little bit about the pros and the cons, this was a birth where this was one of my patients, and I had suggested her to get a doula. This was my friend, her doula, who was actually studying to become a midwife. So she's known as what's called a monitrice, where she could actually check her as well as doula her. So she and I had communicated. I came in after yoga on a Sunday. It was perfect. And I was doing acupuncture for her. And so like I immediately was like, spleen 6, LA4, okay, we'll do this. And we were doing the acupuncture, acupressure while she was standing, whatever position she was in. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. I remember she's very blood deficient and yang deficient. So let's add some moxa. And she was actually sitting on the toilet, and I'm doing moxa spleen 6. I'm warming her feet. And she's like, oh my God, the baby's coming. So I step aside. The midwife or the monitrice goes in. She checks her, and she was like, okay, thank you, Deb. Your job is done here. We're going to go to the birth center now. So it was really cool to affect change like that. Less than 30 minutes. I'm with them. It was amazing. So, in terms of what is good about home birth, honestly, it's my favorite place to give birth. With supporting women giving birth, I have not personally given birth, but I find that they have a lot of autonomy and can do whatever they want. They're allowed to eat or drink whatever they want. Sometimes the hospitals will restrict if she can eat at home. And then she's resting and recovering in her own bed. There's nobody there except the people she invites, and then maybe 2 midwives. So it's not like 10 people come rushing in. So the husbands, the partners tend to feel a lot more connected, closer. Plus, they're better able to bond with their babies. Just an overall better experience. The cons tend to be a lot of financial, where if it's not covered by insurance, or if it doesn't work out, then they paid all this money for the midwives, and then they also have to pay a hospital. Society definitely sees home birth as like witchcraft, and like such few people will do it, like those badass women. I love that. It's amazing. But yeah, concern of financial concern, and really like the whole perception is the biggest challenge to get around. Now, a birth center can be a middle ground. So this is Best Start Birth Center in San Diego. Unfortunately, they did close their doors last year, I believe. But what a phenomenal experience that place was. So they had these big, huge tubs. It was very comfortable. They had candles and pretend fireplaces. So it's low intervention. These are healthy women, normal healthy women having normal healthy babies. So typically a midwife practice has 4 or 5 midwives. So you get to meet all of them in your prenatal visits, and there's no strangers during your birth. And you have this ability to get up, to move, to walk around and make yourself food. There's a little kitchen. You can go inside, outside. Like, it's just really nice. Plus, you can eat whatever you want in this home-like setting. There's beds and showers and all the things. So it's really a great option for some people. Some people that don't want to home birth because they say, oh, my place is too small, or my neighbors will hear, or whatever. Sometimes a birth center can feel a little bit safer for them too. So the cons of a birth center is that there is time limits, as in California, it's a 24-hour time limit. So that means labor, deliver, and recover. So they will not admit you to a birth center until you're at least about 6 centimeters. So that could be a challenge, but the midwives are so fabulous. If you go in and you're 4 centimeters or something, like maybe they keep you in the patient room until they actually admit you. They're not going to send you home if you're really needing help. But again, the cost is a concern if the insurance is not covering it. And then again, if they can't do it naturally for whatever reason that they're paying for and driving to the birth center, and then they have to pay for it and drive to the hospital in labor. So an OB, OB-GYN, so obstetrician, OB is dealing with pregnant lady, gynecologist is vaginas. These are physicians. So this is the Western medical model of care that they're following. Typically, they are employees. They are following rules and regulations, policies and procedures from their hospitals and insurance agencies. So they are literally looking for complications. So if you have low risk families that you're caring for, you could encourage them to shop around, and you can interview doctors and midwives to choose who you want to be there for you. Um, so some of the pros in the hospital is it's the most common choice, and there's this perceived safeness that the life-saving measures, God forbid, um, and covered by insurance. So a lot of people prefer that for sure. So cons of the hospital is the potential for interventions, starting with an induction. And it's like, okay, that induction, we got to add more Pitocin, add more Pitocin. Oh, now her blood pressure is spiking. So now we have to add meds. Oh, now this, now. So it kind of becomes this spiral of interventions, which lead to C-section often. And that is traumatic and challenging for a lot of women to overcome. Then, as we saw in COVID, like the potential for infection, disease exposure, people were like, oh my God, I don't even want to go to the hospital. I don't want to have to be in that potential immunocompromised situation. You don't know these people at all. Plus, they are all following policies and procedures, and there are timelines associated with everything of labor. And this includes inductions, VBACs, things like their bag of water breaking. In San Diego, one hospital is like, if their bag of water breaks within 24 hours, they will C-sec them. Hospital B says 48 hours. Hospital C says it depends. So people need to know these things. And we can call labor and delivery 24 hours a day because they're always open and ask questions. So when you have a patient that is planning to birth at XYZ hospital, you could call labor and delivery and ask the question, hey, I'm delivering there soon, or I'm a doula there soon. I just wondered, what's your policy on this? And you could call several times and ask the same question to get different answers from different people and different shifts. So it is good to know, again, what you're up against in the end of going into birth. So with inductions, people don't even know what they're doing. They're just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna sign me up, and so it's really frustrating because when we look into it, this came from their website, but it can cause the drug they use to induce you can cause uterine rupture that could potentially kill the baby. So that doesn't happen very often, but it could. And that is scary. And nobody really thinks about that. Cervidil is another one. Um, and just, look it up, check it out, see what it says out there. Did you know there's something called a Foley bulb? And a Foley bulb is great because if somebody is having and planning, intending to have a natural vaginal birth, and they don't want Pitocin, they don't want any kind of pharmaceutical interventions, you can help them by sharing, like, did you know about a Foley bulb? So the Foley bulb is a manual thing they will insert into her vagina. It has to be at least 1 centimeter dilated, but then they pump it up over time. And then this bulb will fall out once her cervix opens to 3 or 4 centimeters, and the ideal that it's initiating, starting labor and getting things going. So it's just a nice non-pharmaceutical induction option. For example, one time I was in clinic, I'm working with a patient, and she was my student. She'd taken a childbirth class and wanted me to come to her birth. And she was 39 weeks. She went in for her doctor appointment and she had low fluid. So they wanted to induce her. So she calls me and says, I want my acupuncturist to come. And so they inserted a Foley bulb and said, all right, we'll wait for your acupuncturist. And waited like 5 hours until I got there, and they were like, the friendliest hospital. This was Kaiser, California, in California, in San Diego. So friendly to me, like, oh, can I get you anything? Do you need anything? Like, really treated me as part of the team. So it was nice to have that experience with that. Other potential interventions, things like they'll try to continuously fetal monitor you because then The nurses can watch you, whether they're in the break room or at the front desk or wherever in another patient's room. But, you know, they insist on 20 minutes of every hour. So if you're doulaing or acudoulaing, whatever, you could go ask the nurse, okay, did you get your strip? 20 minutes, we're good. I can take this off so we can walk around now. Because again, that is more helpful if she has freedom to move about. Uh, every hospital insists on putting in what's called a hep lock, where they would open the vein with the IV in case there's a problem. And so I've never seen any hospital not do this. And they do it because she could potentially crash after giving birth, and then they have an open vein to save her life. So it's important, and but it's uncomfortable. Blood pressure cuffs, sometimes they're just stick them on you and they go off every 10 minutes. They're coming in every 30 minutes with a thermometer. Some places even insist you stay in bed and put compression socks on you, whether you're birthing naturally or not. Like, ridiculous. The inductions, if you start with inductions, you're more likely to receive pain medications, have a C-section, potentially even no explanation of what's happening or what your options are. Sometimes they just do it. So that's kind of scary. So this is a very sad reality that is happening out there all the time, is what's called birth trauma. So birth trauma could look differently for different people. This could be ignoring them, saying, "Oh, your pain's not that bad," like not listening to them. Um, I'm sorry. There's so many different ways, like treating them poorly, things like holding them down while they're giving birth. Like they make you give birth on your back because it's easier for the doctor, but it's harder for the mom. Or the nurses are not supposed to birth, like to deliver. And so if a woman is giving birth, they're gonna like tell her to put her legs together and hold the baby in until the doctor gets there. Like so many things, so many birth traumas. It's really sad. It's really hard. Whenever somebody comes in after giving birth, I give an extra 30 minutes of time. I'm not charging for that extra time, but I want to hear her birth story. And it often takes 20 or 30 minutes. And she often cries and has a really good release. It's a good time to do moxa. Again, more interventions at the hospital. Internal fetal scalp monitor. It kind of looks like a little screw they put in the baby's head as she's still in labor to get a better read, especially for VBACs. But I have seen infections where a baby has to go back to the hospital, and is on medications the first few months of life because of that. A catheter, especially if you have an epidural, people think an epidural are going to save them. Well, if you're in labor and you're like 3 centimeters, 4 centimeters, you could have an epidural for 24 hours or so. And if you have to pee a lot, they're going to have to take the catheter out. Ooh, your hoo-ha is going to hurt. Amniotomy is artificial rupture of membranes, where they use a hook, like a knitting hook, and just kind of jag the bag and release the membranes. Augmentation is like Pitocin, using a vacuum or forceps for the actual delivery, pulling the baby out, sucking the baby out. C-section, and then episiotomy is a cut in the vagina to potentially help the baby come out easier. Now, in the hundreds of births that I have seen, it's very clearly obvious when an episiotomy is necessary. The baby's head is bulging, and it's like when they finally do an episiotomy, the baby just falls out. I did not know, and I'm horrified to share that I have seen really terrible things. I've seen doctors cut a woman 15 to 20 times with an episiotomy, snip, snip, snip. Whoa, like that is just, oh my gosh, crazy. So we can help our patients make better choices by sharing the options with them, to encourage them to tour different hospitals, different birth centers, and begin while you're a fertility patient, because before you're pregnant, you're not up against the clock so much. And then decide where you want to give birth. what is the hospital, who is the doctor or midwife, where do I want to give birth that has the best scores, the lowest C-section rate, the lowest interventions, the lowest maternal mortality. And open enrollment happens every year, and pregnancy is 10 months long. So most pregnancies are going to hit open enrollment. So if they get so lucky to be in that space, choosing the hospital that they want to birth at and have those policies and procedures and deal with that is really wise. So people can interview multiple doctors, multiple midwives, doulas, all those things, and figure that out. Just determine what your values are. It is okay for a woman to change from a doctor to a midwife if she's low risk. A midwife cannot accept a patient if she has certain criteria met. So they know, like, as soon as she's risked out, she has to be like transferred care to the doctor. Another thing I encourage all my patients is to hire a doula and find one that you love. San Diego is a very birth-friendly area. There's something called the Birth Education Center up in Mira Mesa or Miramar, and they have classes. They used to have doula meetups, and it was really fun to go and be the only Acu doula. Again, get lots of referrals that way. And to cross refer with other doulas because they will be your best advocates. And I'm telling you, even if you had a class one day for free for all the doulas in the area and invite them over and you teach them acupressure for labor or something, you spend an hour or two with them, those people will refer you forever. And like just saying them, like I need to do that here in Philly. Here are Deb's tip. They don't know what they don't know, nor why they need to know it until it's too late. So our input can make all of the difference. So we're helping our patients become their own advocate for their own health, their own safety, their own birth experience. And we can help women avoid the worst possible situations by educating them, encouraging them to get educated, to educate and involve their partners as much as possible during pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. So it's important to plan for postpartum, just like we're planning for, the pregnancy when we're in fertility land. So it really helps to reduce the stress. And a lot of times people, their first baby, they just don't really think about it. So thinking about the financials, like if she's not going to work for 3 months, how do we deal with that? Who's going to go food shopping? Can we ask her sister to go food shopping once a week for us for the first 3 months? Because it really helps to have this stuff planned in advance. Can her mom come over and babysit the older kid, every weekend for a few hours? Things like that. Can we hire a maid? Can we ask for a fund in our baby shower to help with postpartum expenses? And even things like someone that, maybe it's your next door neighbor that can pick up their prescriptions or your dry cleaning or whatever. Um, I encourage people to put a honey-do list on their refrigerator, like on a sticky note or something. And so when somebody comes over to visit after she gives birth and they say, "Oh, well, here, I brought you a meal. What can I do for you?" You could say humbly, there's a list on the refrigerator. If you could do one thing, that would be so helpful. And, it is a little embarrassing or humbling to have your neighbor bring back your folded underwear and your clothes and stuff. But if they can do a load or two, it really helps you be able to bond and spend this time. Or you have a postpartum doula that could help you. So how are you going to deal with your work? How are you going to have this extra support? Super, super helpful. Whew, all right. Okay. So I mentioned the hold the baby in point, do 20. If there is a concern of a potential miscarriage, you could add in Shishin Kong. So those 4 points once soon around the do 20 points. You could do things like checking for cold, removing cold. I do something called navel cupping. I have classes on it. It's on YouTube. It's phenomenal. I learned it from a woman from New Zealand, and it can really help so many issues, especially when there's cold involved. So you can moxa abdomens, especially if they're cold. So we would do things like that. So I was always taught you never needle the low abdomen. And then I go in 2016 to the International Fertility Symposium put on by Healthy Seminars, and Michael Berkeley of the Berkeley Fertility Center in New York City is telling me you absolutely have to needle Ren 4 or Ren 6 with moxa when there's concern of potential miscarriage. And it's so amazing to me because when you actually palpate and touch their abdomen and you kind of, if I would touch Ren 8, I'm touching their umbilicus, checking for cold. I'm going to check below the abdomen, above the abdomen, and then I'm going to rub my fingers from Ren 8 down. And typically it's going to drop into a point, and it's going to be Ren 6, Ren 4, one of those. And that depressant is going to be so helped by a needle and by moxibustion. So that is what I would do with somebody that had concern of a miscarriage. We really want to calm her mind, calm her shen, balancing her hormones, reducing her pain, researching what else is going on. How can we figure out how to help people? But I find that walking them off the edge is really helpful treatment wise. So this is my top tip. This is navel cupping. So I'm going to show you a short 2-minute video. This is me during COVID, so sorry about the mask, but it's kind of very interesting and useful to know. Hey there, Dr. Deb Davies, and I am working with a patient today that has excessive bleeding and has been very cold. And so what we're doing is navel cupping to help pull some of the cold out of the belly. So we start by putting a little bit of oil on your belly. You okay? And then I'm going to take a tissue and wrap a silver dollar in it. It's like a little magic trick. And roll it up. And then pop off the top and just place this right on the umbilicus. And the reason that we're doing this is to hold the essential chi in the body and then to only pull out what's pathogenic or cold. So I heat up a cup to body temperature using hot water, and I check it with my inner arm, and then I'll test on the patient. Just let me know if this is okay. So that doesn't scare them when you put it on them then. So I'm going to take a lighter and light the tissue, and I'm going to cover it immediately with the cup. The cup extinguishes the flame, and it sucks the belly up into the cup. So I would leave this on about 30 minutes for somebody during treatment. Shimmy their hips just to get the energy moving. But this is navel cupping. All right. So have you guys seen this before or heard of them? Navel cupping? Anyways, I can send you a list of instructions. Let me just write that down real quick. I will send that so that they can send that out, a list of the navel cupping instructions, as well as sending this recording.
I had a patient, he said that they used to do it in the Philippines. That's
Oh,
cupping.
cool. Oh, I love it. That's amazing. That is really cool. Yeah, I think in other countries, my mentor taught me, and she's from New Zealand and Australia. And so there's just numerous things. But if you palpate a belly and it's cold, they need navel cupping because that will pull the cold out. It's so easy to do, and you can practice on yourself. So how you learn, you just do it on yourself because we can reach our own bellies. So it's a really fun thing to add to your practice, and your results are phenomenal. And so when in doubt, you do navel cupping because that could pull out things like wind and cold and so many things. Okay, let's continue on. I'm trying to keep time here. Okay, so first trimester. So what if someone comes in and they're like, I just need a treatment. I'm not really sure. So this would be something. Oh, Brielle, I love her. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so cool. Brielle did it before she got pregnant. This is so cool. All right, let me go back here. Okay, so these would be points if somebody was just coming in for a general treatment. Most everyone's kidneys are weak, so tonifying their kidney chi, tonifying their spleen chi, their lungs, their heart, all of these things, tonifying their blood and tonifying its stomach 36. All of these are really good points. You could do moxibustion if she was cold or weak. Um, just a really nice, gentle treatment there. I tend to not use a lot of needles, so I'll use like 10 to 12 max. So that's something I would challenge you, especially if you're a newer practitioner, to use less needles. We don't want to scatter the chi. Yeah. So if somebody's going through IUI, IVF, assisted reproductive technology, these babies are going to be monitored till about 12 weeks with the endocrinologist, the doctor that they're working with. So a lot of these mamas are terrified about going off the progesterone and they just feel kind of lost. They're like, I'm just supposed to go off and I don't know what to do. Well, Bujang Ichitong is a wonderful formula that we put a lot of patients on at that time, and it lifts and holds and it tonifies their spleen a little bit more, so it gives them a little energy. So it's a nice transition to put them on that as they're going off that. Now, nausea and vomiting is horrible in pregnancy, so it is something I will see often. Sometimes they have a heightened sense of like smell. I couldn't go into a public bathroom where I could smell it like a mile away when I was pregnant. So I do find that weeks 8 through 12 are typically the worst, and the worse their spleen chi is going into the pregnancy, the worse their nausea vomiting will be. So again, this is so important to tonify their spleen and to teach them to eat properly. Um, if they're vomiting a lot, there's a concern of dehydration. It's called hyperemesis, but I do find that this can be really helpful. So points that I would use here, like they talk a lot about P6, spleen 4 for nausea vomiting, but I found in Deborah Bett's book a kidney treatment, and it's kidney 27, kidney 21, and kidney 6, and do 20. And so my older moms, my IVF moms, I tend to use that when they're more kidney deficient, and that I find that that's helpful. I talk about gingins, ginger chews, things like that. Okay, so birth understood. It's important for us to understand and to teach our patients that birth is a normal, natural process. And again, looking at mammals in nature, we want this person to be free to move freely. It doesn't have to be a medicalized event, and that she can take responsibility for her own birth, empower herself, educate herself to create a birth dream team, including you. But then also, we want to help them not feel bad, whatever happens, especially if she didn't get what she wanted, the things that she was hoping for, don't happen or didn't happen. Due dates. So they consider 40 weeks when you have a single baby, but it's interesting because that's 10 months, right? So we think pregnancy is 9 months, but it's 9 months after you find out that you're pregnant, and you don't learn that until you're pregnant the first time. Another thing I think is interesting, so 40 weeks is 280 days. So that's 28 times 10. So that's having a normal 28-day cycle. What if she's having a 30-day cycle? So if you go 300 times 10, well, that's 300 days. Well, in the state of California, they will, again, allow us to go up to 296 days. So if she has a 29-day period or longer, there's concern for induction. She's going to wind up induced. So we will have to work a little bit harder in the end of pregnancy to prepare her body for labor and then to naturally promote the labor as well. Now, whenever they're carrying an extra baby, it's 2 weeks less gestation for those due dates. So we have labor preparation acupuncture, which is something I would recommend beginning around week 34. I have said earlier and earlier over the years, I think I had initially started at week 38 and 36, but I do think it's important because this is when we can catch some of those problems that potentially happen too. So labor prep acupuncture is going to calm her mind. It's going to relax her muscles. She's going to be coming in like, you know, going crazy with all the things. And I'm always encouraging them to relax a little bit, like, especially if they're kidney deficient, like you just need to like sleep for a day or something. Moxa the heck out of them. Um, so this is what I would do, Moxa sacral fans. I'm going to show you a short video here. So I do apologize. We're going to go over a few minutes, but it's probably just going to be about 10 or 15 minutes here. So let me show you this quick video. So I would do Moxa sacral fan after I did navel cupping. So if I did navel cupping and then I remove the cup after 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is, I'm going to immediately palpate the umbilicus and see if there's cold. And if there's cold, I'm going to immediately Moxa there. And it might be 2 minutes, it might be 10 minutes, but you're going to keep palpating and see when she's warmed up. And then I would flip her over and do a Moxa sacral fan. But I also do this for inductions and several other things. Let me Dr. Deb Davies, and I'm here to talk about Moxa sacral fan. This is a tool that we can use to help naturally promote labor. Many women are concerned about avoiding inductions and finding natural ways to naturally promote their labor. So this is what I recommend. It's a moxibustion is mugwort, Artemisia vulgaris. It's grown wild here in California. You want to find a smokeless version, and this version I feel is superior because it has a hole. When you look down the middle of it, you'll see there is actually a hole. If you can see that, but there is a hole down the center, and that helps it light and stay lit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find her sacrum. So the sacral area is that V-shaped bone down by her bum. What I have learned and was told by my mentor, who's an acupuncturist, midwife, and naturopath from New Zealand, was that you do this moxosacral fan. So you think about the sacrum as 5 fingers and you're covering her sacrum. So these are the borders, this is her spine, and everywhere in the middle. So you want to warm it up with this moxa. So I'm getting about an inch away, and we can do lines. You can do little circles. It's very good to feel the area, and anything that's cold, you want to warm. Now, what I was told to do this 30 days prior to birth, every single day, 1 to 3 minutes. And here in the US, it's not common for people to come into acupuncture every day. And so what I would do is do about 10 or 15 minutes once a week or twice a week when they would come in, and it helps them have shorter labors. So it is very easy to use. It feels absolutely amazing. And this is something you could do if you had low back pain, if you had low sex drive. You could do this for infertility, especially if there's coldness in your body. So I'm just kind of feeling along, seeing where there's cold, and she doesn't have a lot of cold. But because she is a couple days past her due date, I'm going to spend maybe 10 minutes doing this today. So this is moxosacral fan. It's really easy. My biggest tip would be don't burn her. So not with the TV on, not with the dog around, not with little ones around. It's something all eyes on her so that you do not burn her. This piece could, it is on fire and it could definitely burn. I use uncooked rice as my ashtray and I just kind of roll it around into that uncooked rice. And you don't want to tap it like a cigarette because the ash does become long. If you do this for 20 minutes, it looks like a pencil point, and we don't want it to fall off on her or anyone. So this is moxosacral fan. It's basically looks like a fan. You can go up, down, side to side, circles, whatever works, back and forth. It's just this whole sacrum area you really want to get nice and warm. And it helps prepare the uterus, the mom's body for labor. And they have shorter, easier labors. I was told this by my mentor that they have births of 20 minutes in New Zealand, and I didn't believe her. So I had a pregnant intern and worked on her 15 minutes once a week for a couple weeks. She wound up with a natural birth and gave birth in 40 minutes when she walked into the birth center. So I really believe in this. I've seen story after story, and this is something you could do to really help your mama avoid an induction, be all prepared for her labor. That's it. So again, super easy to do. I find that putting women that are super pregnant in that position that are kidney deficient, it's really great because they develop this huge sway back where they're kind of sticking their butt out. And so when I had her sitting on my rolly chair, and I use those blocks that you use for like hip blocking to lock the chair in place so it's not going to move, and then her belly was between the table and then the chair, and had some pillows so that she could lean on that, but it opens up her low back and sacrum and really can get into that area, so that can be extremely helpful with a kidney deficiency mamas, and is just my favorite thing to do, especially when it's cold out and when they're presenting cold. Cold congeals, cold contracts. It doesn't allow the free flow of chi, so you know, baby doesn't come when it's freezing cold. Okay. So these are my labor prep tips. So I have they could lay on either side, but technically the left side's better. So they have one leg straight, one leg bent. So the bottom leg is straight, top leg is bent. I have the big body pillow in between, and that way I can get the yin on one side, yang on the other side. Then I'm also going to have a pillow under their head, and that body pillow they can actually hold on to, so that's nice as well. The 40 blinks, the eye pillow, you put a tissue over it and a dot of whatever your favorite essential oil is. I would definitely have her smell it first. Make sure she likes it before you put it on her face. And then I'll play some kind of guided meditation, some lovely I don't know, insight timer, rainbow relaxation, something. Again, as soon as we leave the room, we'll hit play, give her the doorbell so she feels comfortable and safe. These are the points I would use. I would start from the top of the body and I would go down the body. So I would do ear points. So we have a whole protocol, Shen Men, point zero, uterus, endocrine, kidney, spleen, or liver. I am always looking for any kind of marks, any discolorations, veins popping out, whatever. And that's usually the point. And sometimes I'll take a pen that's not ready to write on them, but say, is it more tender A or more tender B? And when they go, oh, that's your spot. Let's see, moving down, I'll do GB21. I might do a little bit of tuina, some, squeezing a little bit. I'll be working down their body, and we could do hip rocking, which is really nice. And I have videos on my YouTube channel with hip rocking. It's so helpful, especially if somebody is stuck in with an epidural because they can't move. Like that's their only movement. So then I wind up going down the GB channel, doing like GB 34, maybe even 41. You could be opening the dime, LI4, lung 7. You don't have to do all of them, but I'm kind of going from top to bottom. And then I'll do spleen 6, liver 3 to kidney 1. It might be liver 5. Really depends on what her pattern is as well. And then her sacral foramen points, the bilateral points, are phenomenal. Those are the strongest points it can do to initiate or bring on labor, or whether you're in. If I do needling during labor when I'm attending a birth, those would be the points I would do. And they work magically amazing. We can do diagnostically. Sometimes I'll do the most gentle Japanese treatment and I'm just doing back shoe points and not do 20, and I'll add in a couple of the ear points and spleen 6 and mocks the bejesus out of her, and she has a baby the next day because we tonified her, because we let her rest, because we strengthened, we boosted her chi. So really being conscious, is she excess? Is she deficient? And if she's deficient, we have to tonify. We have to use a lot of moxa. And if she is excess, hip rock the heck out of her. Shake that baby out, you know. Sacrum press is where you're literally taking one hand over the other and you're pressing down on their sacrum. They would typically be on hands and knees. You're above them. So you're pressing down towards the ground and then you're pulling towards their coccyx. That feels amazing for women. Um, Even just holding their kidney 1, especially if their feet are cold, especially if they're freaking out. Fear, 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 fear. They're in their head. We're pulling that energy down. My favorite essential oil is clary sage, or there's a clary calm with doTERRA. Anything with clary sage is going to help initiate and move on, progress the labor. You could put the oil on their belly, on their back. I hate touching this oil anymore because it whacked my period out. And so I won't even touch it. I would just hand it to the lady and be like, you can put this on your butt, your belly. You know, you can do like whatever perfume, however you want to do it. But it's really helpful. And then it's funny because at some point I'll be like, okay, get that clary sage out of here. If I'm attending their birth. If I got enough clary sage on board. More ideas to stimulate labor. So the Japanese say you don't have sweet during pregnancy, but then during the last few weeks you add in dates. So they say you add 5 or 6 dates a day. Um, that helps stimulate the contractions. We want to warm the sacrum, warm the hips, warm the low back. Red raspberry leaf tea. I don't have personal experience with this, but a lot of my patients said with my second, I drank it and just like my labor was shorter. It felt like the contractions were more effective. My body just knew what to do. Uh, some people like to have sex to help get labor going. And I'll tell you, your patients' husbands will love you for this because I'll tell them, you know, do you feel comfortable making love with your husband right now? Oh, yeah. Okay. So, you know, make love, have him ejaculate inside of you, and then lay there for 20 minutes. Don't get up because his semen has the right prostaglandins, the right hormones to initiate the labor. So if they don't want to have sex, even orgasm is great, whether, you know, they're having oral sex, she's masturbating, whatever, nipple stimulation, all of those things secrete oxytocin, which help get that going. Kind of an old wives' tale, but it does seem to work to have spicy foods. But be careful because you don't want a poopy labor because that can be really stinky. Essential oils we mentioned, chiropractic, having a chiropractor that does the Webster. Some chiropractors will even attend birth, so pretty freaking cool. Doing squats, getting your body moving. Look up spinningbabies.com if you're not aware of it. Look at the rebozo and research that. So many things you could do. And you can teach your patients this. You learn it in 5 minutes from a YouTube video. And it's something you could share with them and help them, you know, get more comfortable in these positions. A lot of times people want to sit on a birth ball and they'll bounce and they'll say, oh yeah, I'm doing it. I'm like, no, we don't want to bounce. We don't want to swell your cervix. We want to do circles. So you're doing little circles to the right, big circles. Then we're doing figure eights, front to back, side to side, trying to, you know, get any kind of open movement into our hips, because if the pelvis opens a millimeter, maybe that baby can drop and initiate the labor. Also doing cat and cow, yoga poses, things like that. So then we have natural promotional labor. So I don't do this until their term, so 37 weeks. But we are not inducing women, and I encourage you to not use that terminology. It is not an induction. Pitocin is an induction. That is the only thing. It's a pharmacological induction. So we do natural promotional labor. That is preferable verbiage. So with natural promotional labor, we can give the option of the different levels of intensity, of low, medium, or high. If it's low, we're just doing those contraindicated points. If it's medium, we're putting the needles in and we're stimulating them manually a couple times throughout the treatment. And if it's high, we're connecting the e-stim. And I save that for the night before the induction, because sometimes you see people 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times before they give birth, and you need to keep upping your game. You're not e-stimming them at 39 weeks. I would never do that. We want her body to be ready for this. So we really just want to get her comfortable, get her relaxed, playing the guided meditations, involving her partner. This is also phenomenal for us acupuncturists. We can invite the partner in. When she's around 36 weeks, we'll say, okay, well, if your, husband, or even if you want to have your doula come, we'll show you some points and have them come the first 10 minutes or the last 10 minutes, and we'll teach them some things that could help you during the labor. And they love this. They love being able to help. This was incredible during COVID because the partners were not allowed to go to any appointment. So people were really grateful for that experience. I send people home with ear seeds, with moxa, with magnets on points, essential oils, all these things, so many different ways we can help. And these are my favorite points for natural promotion of labor, lung 7, LI4, spleen 6. It really, like, finding those tender points are like your money points. So getting good at the Bai points, am I saying that right? The sacral foramen points, UB 32, 33, 34, 35, and it's a matter of the angle of insertion, because so you want to feel like, is it more superior, inferior, medial, lateral, which direction? So sometimes I'll say, does it feel better this way or this way? And syncing those points is like the challenge, if you so choose to accept it. Get 2 of those points in will be really helpful. These are my points. And then I definitely recommend ear seeds. Earseeds.com is fabulous. They sell these kits, and I will use these points, as Giovanni publishes in his book. These points will help with natural promotional labor. So I'll treat somebody, I'll send them home with the ear seeds, and I'll say, anytime you want to work on it, anytime you're stressed about it, you can press, press, press. And yeah, and then you have these points, also great for postpartum. There's a lot of great usage for them. I feel like I see my patients a lot during fertility, pregnancy, but then postpartum, you're like, bye. And it's really not much, only if there's a really big problem. They have a baby. So it's great I'll put them on 1 week, they'll come back the next week, and I'll say, oh, I have this kit. And oh, great, sold. Really good, easy things. So that is my class today. So I am so grateful you guys attended with me. Thank you for those in person and those watching online. These are places you can find me. I teach at Yosan in California, at Eastern School in New Jersey. I have a YouTube channel. My main website is drdebdavies.com. I'm having a perinatal acupuncture conference in San Diego coming up May 17th and 18th. And if you would like to attend, you can put in the word class and you will get $100 off that seat. Or if you're a student, put in student and you get $300 off. So it's an all-inclusive perinatal acupuncture weekend. There's 7 speakers, all the food is included. We have 2 lunches and a dinner, and I brought in this amazing a person to bring to do the food, and she's like making her own nut milks and bring coffees and teas and everything. So it's just gonna be amazing. So I hope uh, you join me there. And if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer questions. Otherwise, I am just grateful for your interest in the work, and please reach out if there's anything I can do.
I do have a couple questions.
Of course, of course. I'd love to answer your questions.
So do you like rice grain maxa at all on your patients or no?
Not anymore. And I think that's my personal choice. I studied that in school and I did a lot of Japanese acupuncture in school, but I was burning myself and them and I just switched and and that's just my own personal preference. If it works for you, do it. I just had a problem burning myself, really.
Okay. I guess this was like earlier in the presentation, but for the like the pelvic and the vaginal steaming, do you have any like testimonial stories for patients that you've had that have benefited from that?
My experience with that was with my own experience with doing vaginal steaming and having some issues postpartum. And then I also had some patients that were unexplained infertility that I just couldn't get pregnant, and I worked with them week after week, month after month, and it was like a year and a year and a half. And so I was like, what about this? Could we try this? And then that worked. And I was like, literally, I told them, go check out Steamy Chick. And they bought the herbs from Steamy Chick. They bought a pot. They did it. Boom, she's pregnant. So I am not the expert. I think the Steamy Chick is the expert on the pelvic steaming there, but she could probably tell you a million stories. And I had the opportunity to learn from her early in my practice. She taught one class, so I was just always like a fan, but I tried to do it once in clinic and I was like, this is a mess. I am not doing this here. I'm not dealing with that. No. But I do recommend it and I think it's highly effective. Uh, So yeah, cool. How about you, Christine? Do you have any questions?
Example one, it's kind of specific. I do have a friend slash potential future patient that is about 20 weeks pregnant and she has a history of kidney stones. She's currently, sorry, currently having some issues with a kidney infection. And my understanding is that she can't get any diagnostic imaging because of the pregnancy right now. So have you had any previous patients who went through that or would know of how I could support her through that?
Wow, that is pretty intense. And, it never ceases to amaze me the level of intensity and the problems. So honestly, no, this is not something I have supported. And this is where I would like contact Dr. Austin. Hey, have you supported this? It seems like a herbal thing to me. With kidney stones, it might be a little bit more detailed, and then kidney infections. It definitely, I'm a firm believer that I'm not afraid to treat pregnant patients, and I know how to take the pulse and to look at their tongue and do an intake and assess what is their TCM diagnosis, and let me treat what I find, and they always feel better, always. So, I don't know. I wouldn't hesitate if somebody were to come in with that. So I don't know to say like, oh, they typically present like this, but you could even reach out to Deborah Betts or Claudia Sikovitz and ask them and, or ask a midwife or an OB, like, oh, tell me what is your perspective of that? Um, Dr. Austin told me to buy a book, a Western medicine book, and it's all the pregnancy diseases. And so it's just helpful, like when I'm like, oh, what about this? Like maybe I'd look it up there. I don't know. Try to find more resources, really. Like I don't know everything, so I just try to find the right people who do or who would know that. So yeah, hopefully you can treat her and support her during your pregnancy. How many weeks did you say she was?
It was about 20 weeks.
Okay, so she's a lot of times problems develop around that halfway point, and if you can even calm her mind, and like they're so happy to come to you week after week after week, and they are so grateful for the support. I've treated things like PUPS or cholestasis, some really complicated itching diseases, but I treated the pattern. The first time I walked in my office, I was like, but I took her pulse. It was so rapid. I was like, clear heat. We got to clear heat. She's got so much heat. Cleared heat. She was like better. She had it the first pregnancy and it progressed horribly through her body. And then it never progressed. I was able to keep her at a healthy pregnancy for the rest of it. So it's amazing. Like my cholestasis patient came in, I think around 16 weeks, and she came once or twice a week. And I was the only itching relief she had. It would feel good for a day or so, but that's just incredible that we can help them like that. And I love that. I love to give hope where they don't think there is any, and they don't have to suffer. There's so many things we can do. They don't need a diagnosis. They could just feel horrible. I'm pregnant and I feel horrible, or a lot of them are just super scared and freaked out. And there's a lot of fear in the industry, and with good reason, with all the horrible things happening with our maternal mortality. And again, I teach this not to scare, but to empower the people, empower us to know, and how can we support families and help them have better outcomes, more positive experiences, that kind of thing.
Thank you
Awesome.
so much.
Yes. Well, thank you guys so much again for being here. And if you are interested in the conference, you can do class or student. If you're a student, even doctoral student, it doesn't matter if you need CEUs, get the discount. We're closing our sales on the 15th of April. Oh my goodness, it's coming soon. It's almost next month. So yeah, well, thank you guys again. And please reach out if you need me. I will follow up sending the recording of this, and I will send the instructions for navel cupping as well. Okay. Awesome. Everybody have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right. Bye, guys.